Hey everyone, tonight we're peeling back the vellum pages of a history that feels too wild to be true. Imagine a world lit only by fire, where your reputation is the only currency that matters and your sword arm is your only credit. You're standing in a 17th century opera house, the air thick with candle wax and sweat. A performer takes the stage, and before the night is over, she will have kissed a duchess, been challenged to a duel by 3 different noblemen and won, all before going home for the night. This isn't a fantasy novel, this is the 1690s. And frankly, between the plagues, the lack of basic sanitation, and the fact that dueling was the primary method of conflict resolution, you probably wouldn't survive this world for a single afternoon. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I always find it fascinating to see where you're all listening from, so as you settle in, post your city or country and what time it is for you in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in Paris, and the year is roughly 1673. The first thing you notice is the smell. You're wrong if you're picturing elegant, perfumed avenues. The real smell of 17th century Paris is a complex, eye-watering bouquet of river mud from the Seine, baking bread from a nearby boulangerie, the sharp tang of horse manure, and the overwhelming, pervasive stench of human waste. This is the city of Louis XIV, the self-proclaimed Sun King, and his ambition is to make France the center of the known universe. But greatness, you discover, has a very pungent aroma. You leave the cramped, medieval streets of the city and travel to the real center of power, the Château de Versailles. It's not the golden, mirrored palace you see on postcards, not yet. Right now, it's the world's most glamorous and possibly muddiest construction site. You see tens of thousands of laborers, artisans, and gardeners swarming the grounds, trying to manifest the king's vision from swampland. Louis has recently moved his court here, partly to escape the noise and disease of Paris, but mostly to keep his nobles on a very short, very glittery leash. You're walking through the new, cavernous halls. The grandeur is staggering. You see intricate tapestries, frescoed ceilings, and floors of rare marble. The people are even more spectacular. You are surrounded by courtiers dressed in the absolute height of fashion. For the men, this means towering, curled wigs, the peruke that cascade over their shoulders, high-heeled shoes with red heels a status symbol, and coats dripping with lace and silver thread. The women are encased in corsets of whalebone and wood, their own hair piled high and decorated with ribbons, pearls, and feathers. This isn't just fashion, it's a political weapon. Louis XIV famously mandated specific, ruinously expensive court attire. This mainstream historical fact was a brilliant cynical move. It kept his nobles so busy focusing on fashion and so deeply in debt to the crown that they had no time or money to plot rebellions as they had done against his father. But you look closer, and you see the reality beneath the silk. You're shivering. Despite the roaring fireplaces, the massive, single-pane windows and high ceilings make the grand halls drafty and freezing in the winter. And the smell, it's worse than Paris. Here's a quirky tidbit for you. The magnificent palace, a symbol of absolute order, had famously inadequate plumbing. With thousands of courtiers living and working in close quarters, many simply relieved themselves in the corridors, behind tapestries, or in unused alcoves. The air is thick with a miasma of perfume trying and failing to mask the stench of urine. This is the gilded cage in all its glory, beautiful, sophisticated, and secretly filthy. Into this precise world, you see a man named Gaston d'Aubigny. He's not a duke or a prince. He holds the respectable, functional position of secretary to the Comte d'Armagnac. D'Armagnac is a very important man, the Grand Écuyer de France, or Grand Squire of France. He is in charge of the king's horses, managing the royal stables. In an era before engines, this position is less about mucking out stalls and more like being the Secretary of Defense, controlling the cavalry, the royal transport, and the kingdom's primary military asset. Gaston d'Aubigny, as his right-hand man, works in the heart of this equestrian world. Sometime around 1673, Gaston has a child. It's a daughter, Julie. Her exact birth date, like that of most people not in the direct line of succession, is lost to the archives. You see this infant, born into a world of rigid, suffocating expectations. What is her future? You see the path laid out for her. She will learn to sew, to manage a household, perhaps to play the harpsichord. She will learn to be demure, pious, and silent. Her entire life's purpose is to be a pawn in a game of dynastic chess, to be married off to a man chosen by her father to improve the family's standing. Her own desires are not even a secondary consideration. Historians still argue whether the extreme, almost ritualized suppression of individual identity, especially for women, was a conscious tool of Louis XIV's absolutist state or merely the cultural peak of the Baroque era's obsession with order. But you watch Gaston d'Aubigny. He looks at his daughter, Julie, and makes a decision that is deeply, wonderfully, and dangerously strange. He works in the Grand Stable, which also functions as a school for the royal pages. These are the sons of minor nobles, sent to court to learn the arts of being a gentleman. You watch them. They're a rowdy, swaggering bunch, learning to ride, to gamble, to dance, and most importantly, to fence. And Gaston decides that his daughter, Julie, will be raised right alongside them. This is the 17th century equivalent of I'm not like other girls, except instead of just having a different taste in music, she's learning how to disarm you and run you through with 3 feet of steel. You see a tiny Julie, maybe 5 or 6 years old, in the dusty courtyard of the stables, holding a wooden foil. She is learning to lunge, to parry, to riposte. The grooms and the other pages might be laughing at her, but her father is deadly serious. She isn't just learning needlepoint. She's learning the botte secrète, the secret thrust. This is the paradox of her world. It is a time of exquisite cultural refinement. Molière is writing his greatest plays, and Jean-Baptiste Lully is inventing the French opera, but it is also a time of casual, brutal violence. You see the other court mothers, clutching their pearls as they watch little Julie tracking mud from the stables into the salons. My goodness, Gaston, you can almost hear them whisper. Isn't it time she learned how to feint properly? But Julie is not learning to feint. She is learning to fight. You are standing at the very beginning, watching this small, fierce girl in a world that has no idea what is about to hit it. You're watching this small girl grow, and the dusty courtyard of the Grande Écurie, the Grand Stable, becomes her entire world. This isn't just a barn, it's a sprawling complex, an architectural marvel in itself, second only to the main palace. You can hear the constant ring of blacksmiths' hammers, the shouts of fencing masters, the pounding of hooves on cobblestone, and the aristocratic drawl of the pages themselves. The smell of horse liniment and damp straw is so thick it gets in her hair, a scent she'll probably carry for the rest of her life. You're in the Hôtel des Pages, the boarding school attached to the stable, and it's a testosterone-filled barracks. These aren't just any boys. They are the sons of France's finest families, sent here to be molded into the king's elite, and right in the middle of them, you see Julie. She's not just allowed here, she's enrolled. Her father, Gaston, has somehow convinced his boss, the Comte d'Armagnac, to let his daughter train as if she were one of them. You see her, perhaps 8 or 9 years old, her hair tied back, wearing practical breeches, a scandalous choice in itself. She's learning the formal curriculum. Her day starts at dawn. First, it's horsemanship. But you see she's not being taught to ride side saddle, the proper way for a lady, which was essentially just being a poised passenger. No, she is learning to ride la hussardy, astride like a man, mastering the complex dressage movements needed for cavalry, learning to control a 1,000-pound courser with just her knees and a shift in weight. Then, you follow her to the Salle d'Armes, the fencing hall. This is the heart of her education. You see her master, a grizzled veteran with a face like a roadmap of old duels, drilling her relentlessly. The style is the new French small sword, a weapon designed for speed and deadly precision, not the heavy, slashing blades of the past. It's all about the lunge, the parry, and the riposte. It's a science. You watch her small hand learn to grip the foil, her body learning to move with the explosive grace of a coiled spring. She is learning that a fight is won with the feet and the brain, not just the arm. It's a good thing, too, because as a woman, she will never have the brute upper body strength of her male opponents. She has to be faster, smarter, and more precise. She is, in short, learning to be lethal. This entire setup, by the way, is a key mainstream historical fact of Louis XIV's reign. The Grand Stable was more than a stable. It was the École de Versailles, an elite academy. Louis wanted his officers and courtiers to be the most cultured in Europe. So, alongside fencing and riding, the pages learn mathematics vital for artillery and siege craft, military history, drawing, and, crucially, dancing and music. You see Julie, after a grueling morning of sparring, being forced to sit and learn to play the harpsichord. She's learning to read music, to train her voice, to dance the complex, formal Karani and minuet required at the king's balls. This isn't a fluffy extra in Louis's court. Knowing how to dance and carry a tune was as important as knowing how to hold a sword. Your grace on the dance floor directly signaled your sophistication, and your right to be near the king. So, you see Julie d'Aubigny becoming a strange, hybrid creature. She can ride like a cavalryman, fence like a musketeer, and sing like an angel. But historians still argue whether her father's bizarre educational plan was a radical act of proto-feminism or something far stranger. Was he intentionally trying to create a woman who could defy the system, or was he perhaps, as some accounts suggest, a notorious libertine himself, grooming his daughter to be a unique and fascinating plaything for his powerful boss, the Comte d'Armagnac? The truth is likely buried in the unwritten, unspoken politics of the court. We see the what, but we will never truly know the why. And what about the informal education? Here's a quirky tidbit for you. The pages of the Grande Écurie were famously incorrigibly rowdy. They were a pack of privileged, hormonal teenage boys. You see Julie learning right alongside them, picking up their swagger, their gambling habits, and their exceptionally colorful vocabulary. You can almost hear her, a 10-year-old girl, letting loose a string of creative 17th-century oaths that would make a royal guard blush. She's not just learning to fight, she's learning to brawl. She's learning how to cheat at cards, how to hold her liquor or at least pretend to, and how to stare down an opponent before a single blade is drawn. This isn't just an education. It's an apprenticeship in pure, uncut bravado. You watch her bloom into adolescence, and what was once a cute eccentricity becomes a dangerous problem. She is no longer a little girl. She's 14, then 15. She's beautiful, with dark hair and a fiery presence. But she doesn't walk or talk like a lady. She doesn't simper or lower her eyes. She moves with the economical, predatory grace of a fencer. She looks men directly in the eye. And when she speaks, her voice is low and confident. The other courtiers are baffled. The men are intrigued. The women are horrified. She's a walking, talking scandal. It's like her father built a precision-engineered racing car and then had to park it in a museum of delicate porcelain. This, of course, is when the Comte d'Armagnac, her father's boss and her patron, takes notice. He sees this extraordinary, volatile creation, and he decides he wants her, not as a page, but as a mistress. You see him, one of the most powerful men in France, propositioning his secretary's teenage daughter. And in this world, this is not seen as a crime. It's seen as an opportunity. For Julie, it's her first real taste of the complex, cynical transactions of the court. Her father, far from protecting her, seems to have encouraged it. She is now the lover of the Grand Squire of France, a man decades her senior. You see her, 16 years old, installed in this new role. She has the protection of a powerful man, but she is, in effect, his property. But you can't tame something that was trained from birth to be wild. This arrangement is a cage, and she is already rattling the bars. You are now the kept woman. You live in the opulent, stifling world of the Comte d'Armagnac. You have beautiful gowns of silk and velvet, your own servants, and a seat at the less important, but still glittery, social functions. You are, in effect, a high-class pet. You are Madame de Maupin in name, but you are the Comte's property in practice. You can almost feel the whalebone of your corset digging into your ribs, a constant, rigid reminder of your new station. You are a living, breathing testament to the power of your patron. He shows you off at parties, a beautiful, slightly dangerous ornament. And you, trained to fight, to ride, to be free, are finding this gilded cage to be infinitely more suffocating than the dusty, sweat-soaked fencing yard of your childhood. Your powerful lover, the Comte, is a practical man. He knows your temperament. He knows you are a walking scandal magnet. And while he enjoys the prestige of taming such a wild creature, he also needs to maintain his own reputation. A mistress is one thing, but a wild mistress who duels pages and swears like a trooper is a social liability. He needs to launder your reputation. And in the 17th century, the only way to make a fallen woman respectable is to drape her in the cloak of marriage. So, a husband is found for you. You watch the arrangement unfold with a kind of detached, cynical amusement. The groom is a man named Sieur de Maupin. He's from Saint-Germain-en-Laye, a quiet town outside Paris. He's fine. He's perfectly, devastatingly average. He's not a dashing nobleman, nor a brilliant intellectual. He's a minor bureaucrat. You see him, polite, unassuming, and utterly bewildered by the entire arrangement. He is the convenient, human-shaped box in which the Comte intends to store you. The wedding is a swift, impersonal affair, a business transaction. You stand at the altar, a 16-year-old girl, marrying a man you've just met, all while your lover, the man who arranged the marriage, watches from the front pew. This mainstream historical fact is the mariage de convenance, the marriage of convenience, and it was the engine of 17th century social mobility. A powerful man, like d'Armagnac, would bestow his mistress upon a subordinate. The husband, in this case Sieur de Maupin, gets a very good deal. in exchange for marrying a used but beautiful young woman and, most importantly, for agreeing to be completely absent, he is given a prestigious-sounding administrative job with a steady salary. You see the ink dry on the contract. Sieur de Maupin is handed his new post, a tax-collecting job in the south of France. It's far away. Very, very far away. You barely have time to toast the marriage before your new husband packs his bags and is shipped off to Provence. He's been paid, and paid well, to disappear. You are now, officially, Madame de Maupin. You have his name. This is the name you will carry for the rest of your life. The name that will be shouted in opera houses and whispered in royal courts. It's the one thing your absent husband ever gave you. You return to your life as the Comte's mistress, but now with a veneer of respectability. You are a married woman. The gossip is, for a moment, quieted, but the Comte has miscalculated. He thought a wedding ring would act like a bridle. He was wrong. The boredom you felt before now hardens into a restless, simmering resentment. You're trapped. You attend the balls, you play the part. You even indulge in the quirky tidbit of the day, mouches or beauty patches. You see yourself in the silvered mirror, placing a tiny black velvet star on your cheek. But these patches aren't just decorative, they're a code. A patch by the lips means I'm feeling kissable. A patch on the forehead means I'm majestic. You, however, favor the temeraire, the impudent or reckless patch, worn right on your nose. It's a tiny, silent act of defiance, a black velvet middle finger to the entire court. Your impatience is a physical thing, a vibration under your skin. And then, you see him. He's not a count. He's not a duke. He's a fencing master, just like the men who trained you. His name is Sirens. He's a professional duelist, a man who lives by his blade. He's lean, dangerous, and has the same swagger you learned from the pages. He sees you, and he doesn't see an ornament. He sees an equal. He sees a fellow predator. The affair is immediate, explosive, and colossally stupid. This is not part of the arrangement. This is not a polite courtly flirtation. You are sneaking out of the Comte's apartments to meet a man who is everything the Comte is not. Young, poor, and exciting. The Comte d'Armagnac, the Grand Squire of France, is being made a fool of. You are 16, maybe 17, and you are playing with fire. The Comte finds out. You can imagine the scene. The confrontation. He's not just a jealous lover, he's an insulted patron. He is the man who owns you, who made you. He threatens you. He threatens Sirens. But his threats are the wrong move. They are just the final push you needed. But the situation is even more complicated. Sirens, it turns out, is not just a roguish fencing teacher. He's a wanted man. He recently fought an illegal duel and offense Louis XIV punished with death and killed his opponent. He is a fugitive from the king's justice. He has to flee Paris. Historians still argue whether your next move was a desperate head-over-heels act of love for this duelist, or if it was a brilliantly cynical calculated decision to use Sirens as your escape route from the suffocating grip of the Comte d'Armagnac. Was it love, or was it opportunity? Given what happens next, it's likely a healthy, chaotic mix of both. You make your choice. You're not going to be a pet. You're not going to be a respectable, married mistress. You're going to be free. One night, you don't come back to the Comte's apartments. You don't pack your silk gowns. You put on your breeches, your fencing jacket, and your sword. You meet Sirens, and you ride. You're galloping out of Paris, the city lights fading behind you. You have just abandoned the most powerful court in Europe, run out on one of the king's most powerful men, and thrown your lot in with a fugitive killer. You are 17 years old. You have no money, no plan, and a warrant is probably already being drawn up for your companion. You are, for the first time, completely and terrifyingly on your own. You are galloping. The adrenaline of the escape is so potent it's almost making you sick. A coppery taste in your mouth, you've traded the stench of Parisian gutters for the clean, cold air of the countryside, and it's terrifying. You're on the King's Highway, heading south. But the road is a mess. You're not picturing a paved, cobblestone route. You're on a rutted dirt track, half liquid mud. A relic of an old Roman road that hasn't been properly maintained since the fall of the empire. You can feel the horse straining beneath you, and your thighs, despite your state-of-the-art upbringing, are already burning. Beside you rides Sirens. In the moonlight, he looks less like a romantic hero and more like what he is, a hunted animal. He's tense, his eyes scanning the tree line, his hand never straying far from the hilt of his sword. You are to specks of dust fleeing the gravitational pull of the Sun King. You've just committed career suicide, social suicide, and are currently aiding and abetting a capital fugitive. You realize, with a sudden, giddy lurch, that if you're caught, The Comte d'Armagnac won't just spank you. You, as a runaway wife, could be forcibly committed to a convent for life. Serans. As a convicted duelist, will be beheaded. It's a fun first date. You ride for days. The reality of 17th century travel is not a picturesque montage. It is an exhausting, bone-airing, and deeply uncomfortable experience. This is a mainstream historical fact, despite the glitter of Versailles. France's infrastructure was notoriously neglected. Travel was punishingly slow. You're lucky to make 20 miles a day. Your entire body is a constellation of new aches. You have to stop at provincial inns, and this is where your new life really begins. You push open the heavy wooden door of a gate, a roadside tavern. The air inside is thick with wood smoke, spilled ale, and the smell of unwashed bodies. It's packed. Farmers, merchants, a few rough-looking soldiers, and a handful of pilgrims huddle around the hearth. Everyone turns to stare at you. You're still wearing your breeches, your man's riding coat, and the sword at your hip. You're an instant curiosity. A problem. Serans, all swagger, slaps his hand on the bar and calls for wine. The innkeeper, a man whose apron looks like it's a historical archive of every meal he's ever served, gives you a room. A room is a generous term. It's an attic space with a straw mattress on the floor, which you will be sharing. Not just with Serans, but with 3 other travelers. Here's a quirky tidbit for your new life. Privacy was a luxury you just fled. In the 17th century inn, beds were communal. You'd often find yourself spooning a snoring notary, a couple of lice-ridden friars, and maybe their pet chicken. You're grateful for the breeches, as it makes the whole climbing over a sleeping stranger to get to the chamber pot ordeal slightly less drafty. You have no money. The little cash Serans had is gone. The single pearl necklace you might have stuffed in your pocket is not a sustainable budget. You're sitting by the fire, nursing a wooden cup of sour wine, and you're hungry. Serans is looking at you, and you're looking at him. The romance of the escape is fading fast, replaced by the gnawing, mundane panic of how do we eat tomorrow? He's a fencer. You're a fencer. The tavern is full of bored, drunk men. An idea starts to form. Serans stands up. He draws his blade, the steel singing as it leaves the scabbard. The tavern goes silent. He points the blade at you. My young apprentice, he announces, is faster than any man in this room. Who thinks they can last 1 minute against him? 10 lives to the man who can. A few drunk patrons laugh. They see you, a boy of 16 or 17, slender, almost pretty. You look like an easy mark. A burly soldier, his face red from the wine, stands up, pulling his own blade. I'll take that bet. He grunts. You stand. You draw your sword. You've been trained by the masters at Versailles. This soldier, though strong, is a barroom brawler. He lunges, all shoulder and brute force. You don't meet his blade with strength. You simply move. A pariquardi, a riposte so fast the eye can't follow it. The tip of your foil is at his throat. His eyes go wide. The tavern explodes. Serans collects the money. You just earned your dinner. This becomes your new routine. You and Serans are a traveling act. You ride into a town, find the rowdiest tavern, and you start a fight. You are a pair of con artists, living hand-to-mouth by your wits and your blades. You're fighting for your life, but it's a living. You're free. You are also constantly in danger. Historians still argue whether the infamous brigands or highwaymen of this period were genuinely organized criminal gangs or mostly just desperate, demobilized soldiers from Louis's endless wars, who turned to theft to survive. Frankly, you don't care about the academic distinction. To you, they are the figures in the woods who watch you ride by. The reason you and Serans take turns standing watch at night, you're heading steadily south, towards Marseilles. It's the edge of France, a port city, a place to disappear. You're learning more about Serans. You're his lover, his partner, his apprentice, but you're also realizing that you are the star. Your hybrid nature, the womanly face, the masculine skill is what draws the crowds. He's the hype man, you're the main event. You are starting to understand your own power. It doesn't come from a wealthy patron. It comes from the end of your sword. You're a long, long way from the perfumed halls of Versailles. You're sleeping in barns, washing in icy streams, and your hands are calloused. You've killed a man, not in a duel, but a highwayman who tried to cut your saddlebags. You ran him through without a second thought. You are no longer a page. You are no longer a mistress. You are a survivor. You're hungry, you're tired, and you're riding into the chaotic, sun-baked, lawless port of Marseilles with no idea what comes next. This is your life now. The road is your home. Every sunset brings a new, lurching anxiety, finding a tavern that looks like it has more paying customers than rats. You and Serans have a routine. You enter and you perform. You've left the grand, money construction site of Versailles for the splintered, beer-soaked stages of provincial France. The grit isn't a romantic concept. It's the feeling of your boots sticking to the floor. The smoky haze that makes your eyes water before you've been inside for a minute. And the wall of sound shouting, arguing, and the clatter of wooden cups. Serans is your warm-up act. He's got the patter, the step-right-up energy. He'll juggle a few knives or perform some flashy, useless fencing moves. But you are the main event. The contract is simple. You'll fight any man in the room. This 17th century gig economy is brutal. Your booking agent, Serans, negotiates your fee, which is usually just a hot meal, a bottle of wine that tastes suspiciously like vinegar, and the right to sleep by the hearth, where it's at least warm. Anything extra comes from the hat you pass around after. You're standing on a table, the wood creaking under your weight. The crowd is a sea of leering, curious, and mostly drunk faces. A woman, they shout, a girl in breeches, with a sword. They've never seen anything like you. You are, to them, a creature from a storybook. A guerrier, they laugh, they jeer, they throw things. But when the local champion, usually a blacksmith's apprentice with shoulders like a bull, pulls his blade, the room falls silent. The fight is a blur. You're not trying to kill him. You're trying to entertain. You have to be flashy. You let him get close. You parry with an over-the-top flourish. You disarm him, not with a brutal wrist break, but with a flick so fast the sword clatters to the floor before he even realizes his hand is empty. You're a performer. You bow. The crowd goes wild. This is better than a bear baiting, but it's a dangerous game. One night, in a town outside Avignon, your opponent is faster than you expected. He's not a local oaf. He's a demobilized soldier, and he knows how to use his blade. He lunges. You parry, but he's strong, and the tip of his sword slices through your jacket, opening a shallow, burning cut along your ribs. You feel the hot sting, the wetness. The crowd smells blood. They aren't cheering now. They're shouting. Serans sees the mood turn. This isn't entertainment anymore. It's a brawl about to happen. You clutch your side, breathing hard. You need to stop this. You need to change the energy in the room, and fast. You're not going to fight your way out. So you do the only other thing you know how to do. You open your mouth, and you sing. You don't sing a bawdy tavern chanson. You sing what you learned in the Grande Écurie. You sing an air decor by Lully, the king's own composer. It's a song of tragic love, of nymphs and shepherds, designed for the pristine, gilded acoustics of Versailles. Here, in this smoke-filled, violent pit, it's an alien sound. Your voice, a powerful, untrained contralto, cuts through the noise like a fresh blade. The room freezes. The blacksmith's apprentice lowers his sword, his mouth open. The innkeeper stops pulling an ale. This is not the screechy, nasal folk singing they're used to. This is art. It's a sound from a world they will never see. You raise singing about Greek gods to an audience of farmers who are collectively missing a solid 300 teeth, and they are rapt. You finish the note. The silence that follows is more profound than any applause you've ever heard. Then someone throws a coin, then another. This changes everything. You've stumbled upon a new act. The sword is the appetizer. The voice is the main course. You are, without knowing it, part of a long tradition. This is a quirky tidbit. You and Serans are essentially a grittier, two-person version of a commedia dell'arte troupe. These Italian performers were common in France, traveling from town to town, with stock characters: the braggart captain, the wily servant, the star-crossed lovers. Their shows were loud, bawdy, and often featured acrobatic, fake sword fights. You're doing the same thing, but your sword fight is real. And your stock character is a gender-bending operating duelist. You're avant-garde, and you don't even know it. This new act makes you a target in a new way. You're not just vagrants, you're successful ones. You have to be careful of the mainstream historical fact of the Maréchaussée. These are the Royal Highway Police, the first ever national police force. Their job isn't to solve mysteries. It's to keep the roads clear of undesirables, which includes vagrants, deserters, and, yes, unlicensed traveling performers. You are everything they hate. You are chaos. You have to keep moving. Historians still argue whether the explosion of these saltimbanques, a wonderful French word for itinerant performers, was a symptom of the widespread poverty and displacement caused by Louis's endless wars, or if it was a genuine flowering of popular culture, a kind of punk rock movement against the rigid state-controlled art of Versailles. You, personally, don't care. You're just trying to eat. Your relationship with Serans is changing, too. It's not just a romance anymore. It's a business. And you are the talent. He's the manager. You can see the shift in his eyes. He's part lover, part bodyguard, and part promoter. The escape from Paris was his idea. But this new life, this is your creation. You're finally approaching the coast. You can smell the salt in the air, a sharp, clean scent that cuts through the ever-present odor of road dust and unwashed linen. You see the deep blue of the Mediterranean. Marseilles, a new city, a new, bigger stage. You are no longer just Julie Daubigny, the runaway mistress. You are La Maupin, the traveling performer. And you have an act that is about to hit the big time. You've arrived, Marseilles. The city gates are a bottleneck of sheer chaos. Unlike the aristocratic, self-conscious grandeur of Paris, Marseilles is a city that works. It's a brawling, sprawling port, the ancient gateway to the Mediterranean. The air hits you first. It's not the familiar smell of river mud and sewage. It's a lungful of salt, hot sun on stone, tar from the shipyards, and the sharp, unfamiliar scents of spices from the Levant, cardamom, dried citrus, and cloves, all overlaid with the powerful, foundational stench of fish. Thousands and thousands of fish. You and Serrans ride through the Vieux-Port, the old harbor. It's a forest of mass. Ships from Genoa, Alexandria, and the Barbary coast are crammed against the quays. You see sailors of every description, sun-scorched Gascons, turbaned Turks, and Genos merchants in velvet caps. The city is loud, a cacophony of a dozen languages, all of them shouting. This is not the King's France. This is a frontier town, a place where fortunes are made in a morning and lives are lost in a back alley before noon. Your old act, the tavern duel, is small time here. These audiences have seen it all. They've watched knife fights between Maltese sailors over a game of dice. Your flashy Versailles fencing is cute. You still perform, but the money is thin and the danger is much higher. You're in a tavern near the docks, and your lowly aria is drowned out by a fight breaking out over a shipment of olive oil. Serrans is looking worried. This new market is too tough. The fighting girl gimmick isn't enough. Then you see a poster, damp and peeling from a wall. It is advertising a performance of Le Triomphe de la Paix, the Triumph of Peace, at the Académie de Musique de Marseille. An opera house. A real one. You'd heard whispers of this. This is the mainstream historical fact that changes your life. While Paris had the Académie Royale de Musique, the center of the universe, the Sun King wasn't a fool. He knew that culture was a tool of the state. He began granting privileges or royal monopolies. Two loyal entrepreneurs to set up their own opera companies in major provincial cities. A man named Pierre Gaultier, a local musician and impresario, had secured the rights for Marseilles. He was running a professional, state-sanctioned opera right here in this chaotic port. You look at Serrans. He looks at you. This is a crazy idea. You're a runaway, a bar fighter, a grifter. You can't just walk into a royal academy and ask for a job, but why not? You've got nothing to lose, and you're tired of smelling like stale beer and fish guts. You go. You walk into the theater during a rehearsal. It's dark, dusty, and smells of canvas paint and mice. On stage, a few singers in their day clothes are arguing with a man at a harpsichord. This is Pierre Gaultier. He's stressed, overworked, and not in the mood for vagrants. You see him look up as you approach, his eyes immediately clocking the breeches, the sword, and the road dust. He's about to call for a stagehand to throw you out. I'm here to audition, you say. Your voice, low and confident, echoes in the empty house. The musicians snicker. Gaultier sighs. Audition for what, boy? The cavalry? I can sing, you say. Sing. Everyone can sing. Go sing in a tavern. I sing opera, you insist. This, at least, makes him pause. The audacity is impressive. Fine, he says, with the weariness of a man who has seen everything. Sing. And then get out. So you stand on the edge of the stage, in the half-light. There's no orchestra, no accompaniment. Just you. You don't sing a tavern song. You don't sing a soft ballad. You plant your feet as if you're preparing for a lunge, take a breath, and you unleash the full, raw power of your voice. You sing the lament of an abandoned queen from an opera you once heard at Versailles. Your contralto voice deep, strong, and full of a darkness and power that most female singers of the day, actively trained out of their voices, hits Gaultier like a physical blow. He is, above all, a businessman, and he is looking at a miracle. He sees this androgynous, beautiful boy with a sword who sings with the power of a demon. This isn't just a singer. This is a ticket seller. This is the talk of the town. This is a marketing campaign in breeches. Here's a quirky tidbit about 17th century opera. Audiences were obsessed with novelty and spectacle. They didn't go for subtle psychological drama. They wanted shipwrecks on stage. They wanted gods to fly in on wires deus ex machina. They wanted magical transformations and allegorical plots so dense they made no logical sense. In France, the biggest stars were often the hautes cantor, the high tenors who sang the heroic roles, not the sopranos. Your deep, powerful, and frankly masculine-sounding voice in a female body or a female in a man's body was the strangest, most novel, most spectacular thing he'd heard in a decade. You're hired just like that. Historians still argue whether your decision to audition was a desperate, last-ditch attempt to find food and lodging, or if it was the first time your true artistic calling finally clicked into place. Were you a born performer who had just been slumming it in taverns? Or were you an adaptable survivor who saw a safer, more lucrative con? We'll never know, but you're off the street. Sarans is now, officially, your hangarin, your manager, your cousin. He's relegated to the wings, watching you take center stage. You are given your first roles. You're not the star. Not yet. You're playing the supporting parts, the warrior maiden, the magician's attendant, the vengeful goddess. You are put into a costume often, given your unique abilities, a male one. You get to wear your sword on stage. The audience is in Marsilis, just as Gaultier predicted. Become obsessed. They call you La Maupin, using your married name. You are an overnight sensation. You have a steady income. You have a home. You are, for the first time, a professional. And it's in the theater, in this new world of grace paint, music, and fabricated gods, that you look across the rehearsal room one day and see a new face. It's not a patron. It's not a duelist. It's a young woman, a merchant's daughter, and she is staring at you with an intensity that you recognize instantly. You are the toast of Marsilis. You are La Maupin, the star of Gaultier's opera. You have money in your pocket for the first time in your life, real money, not just coins won in a tavern bet. You have lodgings that don't involve straw or shared mattresses. You walk through the port and people recognize you. The merchants tip their hats, the fishwives whisper, the sailors whistle. You, in your breeches and sword, are no longer just a vagrant. You are an artist, an eccentric, a local celebrity. This new life is intoxicating. Sarans is still there, lingering in your shadow. He's your manager, your fencing partner, your cousin. He's the one who deals with Gaultier, who makes sure you get paid, who scowls at the stage hands who get too close. The fiery romance of the road has cooled, as it always does, into the complex, slightly sour partnership of the people who are stuck with each other. He knows he needs you. You're not sure if you need him anymore. Your life is a new routine. Rehearsals all day, performances at night. You're on stage, bathed in the flickering, hot glow of hundreds of tallow candles. The heat is immense. The makeup, a thick paste of white lead and pig fat, is melting down your face. But you are in your element. You are playing the roles of vengeful goddesses and warrior princes. And from the stage, you can see the audience. You see the faces in the expensive boxes, the pale ovals of the city's elite, watching you. One face, in particular, starts to stand out. She's young, maybe your age, maybe a year or two younger. She's the daughter of a wealthy Marsilis merchant, a man who deals in silks and spices. She is beautiful, but it's not the hardened, wary beauty of the court ladies you knew at Versailles, nor the rough, sun-scorched beauty of the tavern girls. It's a soft, unblemished, luminous beauty. She is everything you are not: demure, respectable, wealthy, and above all, feminine. She comes to every performance, and she never, ever takes her eyes off you. You watch her from the stage. She watches you from the box. This silent, intense conversation goes on for weeks. You, who have never been subtle a day in your life, find this agonizingly slow. So, you make your move. You find out her name. You accidentally cross her path in the public garden. You are a shock to her system. You're in your men's clothes, your sword at your hip. You don't bow or curtsy. You just talk to her. Your voice, your low register contralto, is as shocking off stage as it is on. She, in turn, is a shock to yours. She's not afraid of you. She's fascinated. The romance, when it finally ignites, is not a slow burn. It's a flash fire. It's a coup de founder. You are used to the cynical transactions of the court with D'Armagnac, the rough Hantamble partnership with Sarans. This is something else entirely. This is an obsession. You are the halves of a whole, finding each other. You sneak out to meet her. You write letters. You are, for the first time, completely, recklessly in love. And you are playing with a fire that can, quite literally, burn you to death. Here is the mainstream historical fact of your new life. You are committing a capital crime. In 17th century France, sodomy was the catch-all term for any sexual act that was not for procreation, and it was a crime contra nature, a crime against God and nature. The penalty, as laid out in the law, was death by fire. While this law was most often and most brutally enforced against men, it absolutely applied to women. You are not just breaking a social taboo. You are not just risking your reputation. You are risking the stake. You, of course, don't care. The danger is part of the thrill. You are a duelist. Risk is what you breathe. But your new lover, she is not. She is a good girl from a good family, and you are pulling her into your dangerous, scandalous world. Historians still argue whether the 17th century horror of same-sex relationships was purely about the religious doctrine, the sin of non-procreative acts, or if it was more about the social transgression of gender roles. You, La Maupin, are the ultimate transgressor. You wear the clothes of a man. You carry the weapon of a man. You have the profession of a man. Opera singing was not a respectable job. And now you are loving as a man. Are they horrified that you love a woman, or that you have, in essence, become a man to do it? For the good people of Marseilles, it's all the same package of horrifying sin. The affair is too passionate to be kept secret. You're La Maupin. You don't do discreet. You are seen with her. You're seen kissing her. You, in your breeches, are parading your love for this respectable merchant's daughter all over the city. You've just handed a loaded weapon to everyone who was ever jealous of your voice, your fame, or your swagger. Here's a quirky tidbit. While sapphic circles did exist, they were hidden deep in the sophisticated, jaded salons of Paris or, ironically, within the walls of convents themselves, where particular friendships were a known, if officially ignored, phenomenon. But this is Marseilles, a provincial, merchant class, deeply conservative Catholic city. You are not whispering poetry to each other in a private salon. You are, metaphorically, shouting your love from the rooftops. It's a public scandal. It's a slap in the face to her family, to the church, to the entire social order. Sorans is furious. He sees the train wreck happening. You're going to ruin us. You can hear him hiss at you backstage. This isn't a game. These people are not courtiers. They burn people like you. But you're not listening. You've never listened to anyone. The girl's parents, the wealthy merchant and his wife, are frantic. They are not just embarrassed, they are terrified. Their daughter is consorting with a sword-wielding, cross-dressing, godless opera singer. Her reputation is destroyed. Her soul is damned. They have to save her. They have to get her away from you. They act with the brutal decisiveness of the 17th century patriarchy. One day, you go to meet your lover, and she's not there. You go to her house. The door is barred. The father meets you, his face a mask of cold fury. He informs you that his daughter has been sent away. She has been taken from Marseilles to be purified, to repent for her sins, to be saved from your demonic influence. He has had her forcibly committed to a convent in nearby Avignon. The gates have been locked. The church has her now. You will never see her again. He has, it turns out, just signed his daughter's death warrant. He has no idea who he's dealing with. You are standing on the merchant's doorstep, the heavy oak door shutting in your face with a sound of absolute finality. You feel the silence. Your lover is gone. The city, which just yesterday felt like your personal kingdom, now feels like a cage. You are breathing, but the air is thin. You're not grieving. Not yet. Grief is a soft, slow, passive thing. This is a different emotion. It's cold. It's hard. It's the feeling you get in your hand just before you draw your sword. It's rage, a pure, focused, and suddenly very, very patient rage. You walk away from the door. You're back in the filthy, sun-baked streets of Marseilles. But you're not seeing them. You're seeing the walls of a convent. You need to understand what this means. A 17th century convent, especially one in Avignon, is not a peaceful, sun-dappled retreat for gentle contemplation. It is a prison. It is a stone box designed for a single purpose, to break the will. It's where society disposes of its inconvenient women, younger daughters with no dowry, mad wives, political liabilities, and yes, rebellious girls who have loved the wrong person. This is the mainstream historical fact of paternal power in 17th century France. The autorite paternel, a father, especially a wealthy one, had near absolute power over his children. He didn't need a trial. He didn't need a judge. He could appeal directly to the king or, in this case, the local magistrate for a lettre de cachet. This was a sealed letter from the king, a royal blank check for imprisonment. It allowed a father to have his child arrested and incarcerated indefinitely, in a prison or a convent, with no trial and no appeal. It was a tool of family order, and it was terrifying. Her father has, with a stroke of a pen, erased his daughter from the world. You try to imagine her experience. You see her, dragged by her father's men, put in a carriage. The ride to Avignon. The gates of the convent closing, the first thing they would do is strip her of her identity. Her silk dresses are taken away, replaced by a rough, undyed wool habit that scratches her skin. Her hair, her beautiful hair, is shorn off. This isn't just for humility, it's a symbolic scalping. Removal of her vanity and, by extension, her femininity. Her new life is a tyranny of bells, a bell to wake her before dawn in a freezing, stone-walled cell. A bell for lauds, the first of 8 daily prayers. A bell for a meager breakfast of black bread and weak ale. A bell for hours of silence, agonizing needlework. A bell for confession. A bell for more prayers. A bell for vespers. A bell to sleep. It is a life designed to grind down any scrap of individuality, to turn a person into a blank, obedient page, and the silence, outside of prayer. She is forbidden to speak. This is the cure her father has prescribed for her sickness. Historians still argue whether this practice of forced conventual life was seen by 17th-century society as a genuine act of saving a soul, or if everyone tacitly understood it as a social and financial tool. Was her father truly terrified for her immortal soul? Or was he just terrified for his family's reputation and his daughter's, and thus his financial value on the marriage market? The answer is, almost certainly, a toxic, inseparable blend of both. You, back in Marcellus, are a disaster. You go to the opera house, but you can't sing. You're on stage, in the middle of an aria, and your voice cracks. You walk off. You are drinking. You are picking fights in taverns, but not for money anymore. This time, you're fighting to hurt. You nearly skewer a man who looks at you the wrong way. Sarans, panicked, drags you out. He's watching his meal ticket self-destruct. She's gone. Julie. He's pleading. There's nothing you can do. Forget her. You'll be burned at the stake. They will burn you. He's right. Avignon is not just any city. It's a papal territory. Until the Revolution, it's not technically part of France. It's ruled directly by the Pope. The Inquisition still has power here. This isn't just a legal matter. It's a religious one. Breaking someone out of a convent in Avignon is like trying to steal something from the personal vault of God. You ignore him. You get on a horse. You ride to Avignon. You see the convent. It's a fortress with walls 20 feet high, topped with iron spikes. The windows are narrow slits, closer to arrow loops than windows. The gate is a slab of oak and iron. You feel a moment of true despair. It's impossible. You can't fight your way in. This isn't a tavern, but there is one point of weakness. One single, sanctioned point of contact with the outside world. It's a quirky tidbit of convent life, the parloir, or parlor. This was a small, grim room, divided into by a grill, a heavy iron grate so dense you could barely pass a finger through it. This is where a nun, with a chaperonette standing right behind her, could speak to a family member. You don't know if she's a full-fledged nun or just a postulant and novice, but you try. You demand to see her. You're a cousin from out of town. The mere superior mother superior, a woman who looks like she's carved from hardtack, regards you with suspicion. Your breeches and your sword are not helping. But you are La Maupin. You are a celebrity. You are convincing. You are brought to the parloir. You stand in the dim, cold, public side. You hear a shuffle. And then she's there, on the other side of the iron bars. It's her. But it's not. Her face is pale and thin. Her eyes are wide and empty. She's wearing the rough, shapeless brown habit. Her head is covered by a veil, but you can see the shorn, hack-it-off-looking hair underneath. She looks at you, and she starts to weep, silently, her shoulders shaking. She has been in here for weeks. She is broken. You press your hands against the cold iron. You look at her, at what they've done. And in that moment, the cold rage in your chest crystallizes. It becomes a plan so insane, so blasphemous, so theatrical, that only you could have conceived of it. You're not just going to break her out. You're going to burn that place to the ground. You put your fingers through the grill, just enough to touch hers. Stop crying, you whisper. Your voice a low, steady promise. I'm coming to get you. You walk away from the parloir grate. Her weeping, broken face is burned into your mind, a new kind of fuel. You are no longer just angry. You are a tactician. The rage has cooled and sharpened into a point. How do you breach a fortress that is, by its very nature, impenetrable? You realize you've been thinking like a duelist, all frontal assault and brute force. But this problem doesn't require a sword. It requires a performance. This isn't a duel, it's an infiltration. You are going to give the performance of your life. You are not going to break down the door. You are going to knock politely, and they are going to let you in. You ride back to Marseilles. The first stop is the opera house. Gaultier is in the middle of a rehearsal, screaming at a tenor who can't hit his high note. You walk onto the stage. "I'm quitting," you say. The rehearsal stops. Gaultier's face goes through a fascinating spectrum of purple. You are his star. You are his fighting girl. You are his box office. You explain, with a performance of shattering sincerity, that your life of sin has caught up with you. You tell him you are damned. You tell him you have seen the face of your own corruption and you must go to a convent to save your soul. Gaultier is apoplectic. He doesn't believe a word of it, but he can't argue with God. The second stop is Sirens. He's back at your lodgings, cleaning his blade. You tell him the plan. His reaction is not anger. It's fear. Real, profound fear. He thinks you have lost your mind. A convent. They'll eat you alive, Julie. This isn't a tavern. These are nuns. And it's in Avignon. That's papal territory. They answer to the Pope, not the king. He's pleading. He's begging. He's watching his entire livelihood, his partner, his lover, walk willingly into a stone box. You've survived duels, highwaymen, and the Comte d'Armagnac. And you're going to be brought down by a bad case of blasphemous, lovesick insanity. You take the purse of money you saved your opera earnings and you split it with him. Go back to Paris, you tell him, or don't. But I'm doing this. He just stares at you, defeated. The final stop is a draper's shop. You take your half of the money. You buy the most modest, most depressing, most penitent dress you can find. It's rough wool, the color of mud. You buy a simple veil. You then go to an alley. You take your sword, the Versailles blade that has been your companion, your protector, your key to the world, and you wrap it in an oilcloth. You find a loose stone in a wall and you hide it. This feels worse than taking off your clothes. You feel naked, unarmed, a creature without its claws. You are now a new character. You are no longer La Maupin, the swaggering, breech-chest-wearing duelist. You are Julie d'Aubigny, the broken, weeping sinner. You get back on your horse and ride to Avignon. You stand at the same convent gate. You knock. The same formidable portiere, the gatekeeping nun, opens the small Judashatch. She sees you. Her eyes widen in recognition, then narrow in suspicion. You're not in your breeches. You are weeping. You are sinking to your knees on the stone step. You are begging for your immortal soul. You are granted an audience with the abbess, the Mother Superior. She is a woman of terrifying, placid authority. You are in her office. There is one cross on the wall and the air smells of beeswax and old paper. You tell your story. You are a star of the opera, a den of sin. You have lived a debauched, unnatural life. You conveniently leave out which unnatural part. You have felt the fires of hell licking at your feet. You must repent. You must give your life and your voice to God. You are acting. You are pulling on every ounce of stagecraft you have ever learned. You are playing for the highest stakes imaginable. The abbess is silent. She is not a fool. She knows who you are. The whole region knows, but she sees two things. First, the most famous sinner in the south of France, kneeling on her floor, begging for salvation. What a magnificent PR victory for her convent. What a testament to her holy influence. And second, you have money. This is the mainstream historical fact that your entire plan hinges on. Convents, like marriages, ran on dowries. To become a nun, a bride of Christ, a woman's family had to provide a substantial sum to the convent for her upkeep. It was a business. You, of course, have no family to negotiate for you. So you make the offer yourself. You will give all your remaining money, your entire opera savings, to the convent. A donation to secure your place, to prove your sincerity. The abbess's decision is swift. She is gaining a new soul and a famous one at that, a trained voice for her choir, and a small fortune for her coffers. How can she refuse? Historians still argue whether the church in this period was a genuine spiritual shepherd for its flock, or one of the largest, most cynical, and most effective financial corporations in European history. When you see the abbess's cool, appraising glance, you're pretty sure you know the answer. You are accepted. You are to become a postulante, a novice. The Trojan nun is inside the gates. The heavy iron and oak gate groans shut behind you. The sound is a sickening, absolute thud. The world you knew is gone. You are inside. You are handed the rough brown habit of a postulant. Your muddy, penitent dress is taken. They want to cut your hair. You beg, please, not yet. Let me offer it to the Virgin Mary in a week's time. Let it be my first act of true devotion. The abbess, pleased by this display of piety, agrees. You've just bought yourself a week. Here is a quirky tidbit. The first thing that happens when you join is that you are stripped of your name. Julie Daubiny is a worldly vanity. You are given a new, holy name. You are now Sister. Let's say, Sister Ange. Sister Angel. The irony is so thick you could choke on it. It's a bit like joining a very strict, very cold-blooded theater troupe where everyone is a method actor. You are now living inside the walls. Your plan, as insane as it was, has worked. You are a spy. You are a predator in sheep's, or rather, nun's clothing. You move through the cold, silent stone corridors. You are learning the routines, the bells, the prayers, the layout of the dormitories, the kitchens, the refectory. And you are looking for one face in the sea of veiled, anonymous women. Then, at Vespers, you see her. She's across the chapel kneeling. Her eyes are fixed on her prayer book. You are just one of several new postulants. She doesn't see you, not until you lift your head. And you sing. Your voice, the one they all know from the opera, echoes in the stone vault. She looks up. Her eyes meet yours. You see the blood drain from her face. You see terror, confusion, and then a fragile, impossible spark. You give her the slightest, almost invisible nod. I told you I was coming. Your new life is a symphony of cold. You wait before dawn, not to the rowdy call of a fencing master or the applause of an audience, but to a single, insistent iron bell. The sound slices through the dark, and your first sensation is the floor. It's not wood, it's stone, and it is so cold it feels like it is actively sucking the heat from the soles of your feet. You swing your legs out of the narrow, straw-stuffed cot. Your breath a white plume in the air of the dormitory. You are in a vast, cold room with 30 other cots. 30 other women breathing silently in the dark. You pull on the ruff. Scratchy will have it. It's the standard dissous uniform of a postulant, and it smells faintly of lye and old incense. You are, quite literally, itching to get back into your breeches. You shuffle in a silent line with the other novices. No one speaks. You are not just forbidden from talking. You are forbidden from making eye contact. You are to be a ghost, a vessel. Your individuality scrubbed away. You follow the line into the chapel for lauds. This is the mainstream historical fact that governs your new universe, the liturgy of the hours. Your entire day, your entire life, is now partitioned by prayer, lauds at dawn, then prime, terce, sext, nun, vespers, and finally compline before bed. It's a rigid, divinely ordained schedule. It's a 17th century time management system designed by God. And there is no snooze button. The chapel is even colder than the dormitory. You kneel on the stone. You sing. This is the one part of the day you can almost tolerate. The abbess, true to your prediction, has put you in the choir. Your voice, that deep, powerful, opera-trained instrument, fills the stone vault. It's an alien sound here, to rich, to worldly. You see the older nuns close their eyes, and you know you're good. You are performing piety, and your audience is enraptured. After prayer, breakfast. You file into the refectory. The meal is a bowl of thin, watery oatmeal or gruel, a hunk of black bread so hard you could use it to sharpen a blade, and a cup of small beer, which is so low in alcohol it's basically just fermented water. It's the original 17th century cleanse, and let's just say the reviews are terrible. You eat every bite. You are a performer, and you need your strength. Then the work begins. You are a postulant, which is the convent's word for unpaid intern or pledge. You are at the absolute bottom of the hierarchy. You don't get to sit and illuminate manuscripts. You get to work. You are on your hands and knees, scrubbing the stone floors of the cloister with a brush, a bucket of freezing water, and a block of lye soap that tears your hands apart. You, Maupin, who has faced down duelists and charmed counts, are now in a high-stakes battle with mildew. You are assigned to the laundry, a steamy, hellish room where you spend 8 hours stirring massive cauldrons of boiling linens with a wooden paddle. You are assigned to the kitchen, where you peel endless, muddy root vegetables. You are assigned to empty the chamber pots from the infirmary. It's mundane, it's disgusting, and it's exhausting. And it is the perfect cover. The wild La Maupin is gone. You are Sister Ange, the most devoted, humble, and hard-working postulant this convent has ever seen. You scrub the floors with a holy zeal. You sing the psalms with such passion you make the abbess weep. You are so pious, you're practically glowing in the dark. You're basically angling for none of the month, and the prize is, well, probably just more gruel and a slightly less lumpy pillow. But this performance is a mask. Behind your downcast, humble eyes, you are a duelist. You are scanning, mapping, learning. You are studying the architecture of your prison. You note the thickness of the doors. You note that the windows in the dormitory are barred, but the ones in the abbess's office are not. You note which keys hang from the portiere's belt. Your biggest challenge is communication. You have to live this mundane life, but you also have to make contact with your lover. This is where you run into the great silence. Most of the day is lived in total silence. Historians still argue whether this rule of silence, common in many monastic orders, was truly for fostering an inner, contemplative dialogue with God, or if it was a powerful tool of psychological control. By forbidding speech, you break the bonds of friendship and conspiracy, isolating each nun and making her totally dependent on the authority of the abbess. But humans will be humans. Here's a quirky tidbit. In many of these silent orders, a complex and sophisticated sign language developed. Not the sign language of the deaf, but a unique, internal vocabulary of gestures for past assault. The floor needs sweeping, or the abbess is in a terrible mood today. You are a fast learner. You learn the signs. You learn to speak with your hands. And one day, in the laundry, you accidentally get partnered with her. Your lover. She is still pale, still thin, but the spark you lit in the chapel is a small, steady flame. You are both folding a heavy linen altar cloth. The supervising nun is looking the other way. You can't talk, so you sign. You gesture. Are you okay? She signs back. A shaky, terrified yes. You fold the linen. You look her dead in the eye. You sign, slowly, so she understands. I am getting you out. You watch her nod, a single, sharp dip of her chin. The pact is made. You continue your mundane life. You scrub, you pray, you sing. But now, you are not just scouting. You are waiting. You are a coiled spring, hidden beneath a wool habit. You are the perfect, humble, obedient novice, and you are waiting for an opportunity. You are waiting for someone to die. You've been inside for weeks, maybe a month. Time itself has become a thick, gelatinous substance, measured only in the changing angles of the sun on the stone floor and the slow, agonizing cycle of prayers. The cold has seeped into your bones. Your hands are raw and cracked from the lye soap. The perfect novice, Sister Ange, is still performing, but the mask is heavy. You are a creature of action, of impulse, of fire. This world of cold stone, silence, and submission is a slow-motion drowning. You've made contact with your lover. You've exchanged a few desperate, terrified glances. You've signed soon. But soon is a meaningless word in a place where nothing ever happens. Your patience is fraying. You're on your knees in the chapel, the stone pressing into your shins, and you're supposed to be in a state of holy rapture. Instead, you are methodically, profanely, fantasizing about setting the abbess's wimple on fire. You are losing your edge. You are becoming one of them. The thought terrifies you more than any duelist. Then, your duties change. You are rotated out of the laundry. Your penance apparently sufficient. You are assigned to the infirmary. You push open the door. The infirmary is a long, narrow room, smelling of vinegar, dried herbs, and something else. Something sweet and sick. The miasma of decay. This is where the old and the sick are brought to be tended to by the herborist, a nun so ancient she looks like a dried apple. This isn't a hospital. It's a waiting room. The final one. Your job is to assist. You change soiled linens. You spoon-feed thin broth to women who can no longer hold a cup. You sit by the bedsides of the dying, holding their hands and reading psalms. You, who have lived by the sword, are now a deathbed angel. The irony is lost on you. You're too busy scanning this new environment. The infirmary, you note, is on the ground floor. It has a heavy, lockable door. And it is, crucially, next to the small chapel where the dead are laid out before their burial. In one cot in the corner is a nun. She's not just old, she's ancient. Sister Clement. She's been in this convent for 70 years, since she was a girl. She entered when Louis XIV's father was still a young man. Her face is a map of pale, translucent wrinkles. She is just breathing in and out, a tiny, shallow rattle. She is not sick. She is, as the herborist nun whispers with a shrug, finishing. You are assigned to sit with her. The night watch. The other nuns are at Compline, the final prayer. You are alone in the infirmary, save for the dry, papery breathing of Sister Clement. The room is lit by a single candle. You are supposed to be praying for her peaceful passage. You are not. You are staring at her, and you are thinking. You are trapped. Your plan, your grand infiltration, has led you to this. You're in, yes, but you're just as locked up as your lover. You can't get out. You can't break down the gate. You can't scale the 20-foot walls. You have swapped a prison of boredom at Versailles for a prison of piety in Avignon. You are stuck. Sister Clement's breathing stops. You watch her. You wait. The silence in the room is no longer the silence of prayer. It's the silence of absence. You lean in. You put your hand near her mouth. Nothing. You're not a doctor, but you've seen death in taverns and on roadsides. This is it. She's gone. You are alone in a room with a dead body. You feel a lurch in your stomach, but it's not grief. It's a spark. A cold, terrible, brilliant spark. An idea so profane it makes you want to laugh. You look at the body of Sister Clement. She is small, frail, but she's a body. An authenticated, accounted for, convent-approved body. What is the mainstream historical fact of a 17th century monastic burial? It's not a grand affair. Historians still argue whether this was an expression of ultimate Christian humility, a final rejection of worldly pomp, or a brutally practical, cost-saving measure for an institution that had to deal with death as a constant administrative reality. Either way, the process is swift and simple. The body is washed by the other nuns, wrapped in a simple shroud, and placed in the plainest possible pine coffin. There is no embalming. There is no public viewing. The coffin is nailed shut. A brief mass is said. And then, the body is taken to the convent's private cemetery or crypt, which is inside the walls, and buried, usually within 24 hours. And here is the quirky tidbit that your plan now hinges on. This is an era obsessed with miasma, the theory of bad air. Disease was thought to spread through smell. A decomposing body was not just a tragedy, it was a biological threat. Getting the dead underground, and fast, was a matter of public health for the enclosed community. Nobody was going to ask to see the body one last time. You look at Sister Clement. You think of your lover, asleep in her cot in the postulant's dormitory. A living body. A dead body. Both in cells. Your mind, trained in the fast, brutal logic of a duel, makes the connection. Parry. Riposte. Replace. The plan crystallizes, unfolding in your mind in a second. It is no longer a simple breakout. It's a work of theatrical genius. It's arson, it's grave-robbing, and it's a body swap, all rolled into one. You need to get this body from the infirmary to your lover's cell. You need to get your lover out of her cell and hidden somewhere. You need to put Sister Clement's body in your lover's bed. And then, you need a distraction. You need a fire. Not a small fire in a wastebasket. You need an inferno. A fire so huge, so chaotic, so terrifying, that the entire convent is thrown into panic. A fire that will burn the cell, burn the body, and make it unrecognizable. In the chaos, as the nuns are screaming and hauling buckets of water to postulants, one of whom is presumed to have tragically burned to death in her bed, will simply slip out. You look at the peaceful, dead face of Sister Clement. She has just, in her last act on earth, provided the key. She is your Trojan horse. You smooth the old nun's habit. You compose your own face into a mask of pious, tear-streaked sorrow. You walk to the door. You must be the one to sound the alarm, to play the part of the grieving novice. You open the door to find the abbess. Mother, you whisper, your voice thick with fake emotion. God has shown his mercy. Sister Clement, she is with him. The abbess nods and crosses herself. You cross yourself too. But in your heart, you are not praying. You are calculating. You are measuring the distance from the infirmary to the dormitory. You are estimating the burn time of a straw mattress. The Trojan nun now has her weapon. You've reported the death. The abbess, with a quiet, administrative sigh, begins the process. Sister Clement must be prepared as the pious, hard-working Sister Ange. You volunteer to assist the old, herborous nun in the final, sacred task, washing the body for its burial shroud. You are in the infirmary. It's just you, the ancient herbalist, and the corpse. You are washing the cold, waxy skin of a woman you've never spoken to. You feel a strange, cold calm. You are a performer in the wings, waiting for your cue. The body is washed, wrapped in a simple shroud, and moved to the small, cold chapel of the dead, a room barely larger than a closet, to await the carpenter in his pine box in the morning. Your cue has arrived. The convent sleeps. The great silence is absolute. The only sound is the wind whistling through the iron-barred windows of the cloister. This is the moment. You are supposed to be in the chapel, holding a vigil, praying for Sister Clement's soul. This pious act gives you the one thing you need. You are authorized to be out of the dormitory after lockdown. You slip out of the vigil chapel. You are a shadow in a building made of shadows. You move, your wool habit silent on the stone floors, to the postulant's dormitory. The door, as you knew it would be, is locked from the outside. A nun locks it every night after Compline to keep the novices in. But you, in your devoted service over the past weeks, have helped the elderly, key-bearing nun. You know exactly which key on her belt is the dormitory key. And you borrowed it an hour ago while she was nodding off during Vespers. You slide the heavy iron key into the lock. The click is deafening in the silence. You slip inside. The room smells of stale straw and 30 sleeping women. You navigate the maze of cots. You find her. You put your hand over her mouth. Her eyes fly open. You see the white of her terror. You just nod now. You pull her from the bed. She is shaking so hard she can barely stand. You half carry, half drag her, barefoot, back through the dark, cold corridors. Where to hide her? You can't just walk her out. You take her to the infirmary, the one place you have a right to be. You put her in a tall, narrow cupboard used for storing dried herbs. It's cramped. It smells of lavender and dust. Do not move, you whisper. Do not make a sound. Phase 1 is complete. Now for Phase 2, the grim part. You go back to the vigil chapel. Sister Clement is lying on a simple wooden bier. You look at the body. You are an opera singer. You are a duelist. You are, for the next 10 minutes, a grave robber. You hoist the body thankfully light, frail, all bone and air over your shoulder. This is the most blasphemous piggyback ride in history. You carry the corpse of the nun back to the postulant's dormitory. You slide the body into the empty, stillworm cot your lover just vacated. You pull the rough wool blanket up to its chin. You arrange the shroud to cover the face, as if in peaceful repose. In the darkness, if anyone wakes, they will just see a sleeping form. Phase 2 is complete. Now, the finale. You have a single tallow candle from your vigil. You look at the cot. The mattress is a thick bag of dry, crackling straw. The blankets are wool. The frame is dry pine. You are standing in a tinder box. This is the mainstream historical fact of the 17th century. Fire is the ultimate, uncontrollable terror. Cities are built of wood, lit by flame, and have no way to fight a blaze. The Great Fire of London, which leveled a medieval city, was only a few years ago. Everyone knows what fire can do. You touch the candle flame to the edge of the straw mattress. It does not catch. It detonates. The straw ignites with a sound like a giant, sudden whoosh. A flash of orange light illuminates the entire dormitory, revealing the sleeping faces of the other novices. The fire climbs the wool blanket, consuming it instantly. It licks the wooden wall. You don't wait. You run. You get back to the infirmary, pull your lover from the cupboard. You are just in time. A scream. Then another. Then the bell, not the prayer bell, the alarm bell. A frantic, panicked, chaotic clang clang clang. You run out into the cloister, dragging your lover, playing the part of the terrified, rescued novice. The scene is chaos. Nuns are pouring from their cells, their hair uncovered, screaming, clutching crosses. The abbess is in the courtyard, her face stark white in the firelight, shouting orders. The dormitory wing is a furnace. Flames are now roaring from the windows, 20 feet high. You see the quirky tidbit of 17th century firefighting in action. The nuns have formed a bucket brigade from the central well. It's hopeless. They are a line of panicked women, passing small, leather buckets of water to throw at a roaring inferno. It's the 17th century equivalent of trying to put out a volcano with a damp sponge. The roof of the dormitory is starting to collapse. Sparks are catching on the adjacent building. Historians still argue whether the local authorities who arrived later were genuinely fooled by the accident or if the church, desperate to avoid the scandal of a foreseen prisoner girl, a body-swapping duelist, and a heretical fire, simply declared it a tragic act of God and buried the investigation. You, meanwhile, are not waiting for the investigation. All eyes are on the fire. The portiere, the gatekeeper nun whose entire job is gate, has, in fact, forgotten the gate. She's in the bucket brigade, the main gate, the massive oak and iron door. It's unlatched. In the smoke, in the screams, in the red, flickering chaos. You are just two more nuns fleeing for safety. You grab your lover's hand. You don't run. You walk, quickly, calmly, moving against the flow of panic, toward the gate. You pull the heavy iron ring. The door groans open. You slip out into the cold, dark, silent street of Avignon. Behind you, the convent is a roaring torch, lighting up the night sky. You have just committed heresy, kidnapping, arson, and desecration of a corpse. It's been a busy night. You are free, and now you need to find your sword. You're in the street. You're out. You're free. And you are, for the first time, truly, profoundly screwed. Behind you, the convent is a pillar of fire, a beacon of your blasphemy. The sky is red. The alarm bells of Avignon are ringing, not just from the convent, but from the city watchtowers. You are standing in the middle of a papal city, dressed as a nun, holding the hand of another nun, having just committed. Well, let's count. Arson, capital crime. Grab robbing, capital crime. Kidnapping a novice, capital crime. And of course, the underlying reason for it all, the relationship that got her locked up in the first place, also a capital crime. You haven't just broken the law, you've declared war on the entire 17th century social and religious order. Your lover is in shock, her body's shaking so hard her teeth are chattering. She's barefoot on the cold stones. She's weeping. This is not the triumphant, passionate reunion of her fantasies. This is cold and terrifying. You, on the other hand, are clear. Your mind is a shard of ice. You have one priority. You pull her into the dark labyrinth of alleys, away from the glow, away from the shouting. You run. You run to the wall where you hid your sword. You fumble behind the loose stone, your fingers brushing the oilcloth. The second your hand closes around the familiar, wire-wrapped hilt, you feel your soul click back into your body. You are no longer Sister Ange. You are La Maupin. You strap the sword belt on over your postulant's habit. You must look like the most terrifying angel of vengeance in Christendom. You have to get out of the city. The gates are locked at night, but you hear shouting from the main gate. The city guard is mustering, being let out to go fight the fire at the convent, which is technically just outside the main wall. In the chaos, with guards running, citizens gaping, and the gate held open, to small, weeping nuns fleeing the other way, supposedly in a panic to find shelter with a city priest, are ignored. You slip through the bottleneck. You are out. You are in the dark, cold countryside of Provence, and the romance immediately begins to die. It turns out I would die for you is a lovely poetic sentiment, but I will sleep in a ditch and eat stolen raw turnips for you is a much harder sell. You are on the run for months. This isn't the rowdy, exciting road trip you had with Serrans, where you were a performer. You are now a fugitive from the Inquisition. This is the mainstream historical fact that changes the game. The Marechaussee, the king's police, were brutal. But the inquisitors, the police of the Pope, were creative. They weren't just interested in your body, they were interested in your soul. And they were perfectly willing to destroy the former to save the latter. You are not just facing a beheading. You are facing the stake. You are facing La Foy, the fire. The same fire you used as a tool. Your lover. She is not built for this. She is a merchant's daughter. She's used to soft beds, warm meals, and servants. You are a duelist. You are used to sleeping in stables, fighting for your dinner, and washing in streams. On the first night, you find a cold, damp barn. You burrow into the hay. You are, at least, dry. She just stands there. It smells. She whispers. Yes, you say. It's a barn. It smells of barn. Get in the hay before you freeze. She tries. She is shivering. She is crying again. You try to hold her, but she's stiff. You are not her romantic savior. You are the terrifying, sword-wielding maniac who just burned down a building with a dead nun in it. You steal clothes from a washerwoman's line. You're out of the habits, thank God, but you're now in the rough, homespun linens of a peasant. Your lover has never worn anything but silk and fine wool. The rough cloth chafes her skin. Her soft-soled city shoes fall apart in a week. She's walking barefoot on rocky goat paths. Her feet are a bloody mess. You have to avoid towns. You avoid main roads. You travel at night, through the garrigue, the dense, scrubby wilderness of Provence. Here's a quirky tidbit. The 17th century peasant was terrified of the woods, especially at night. They believed in the loup-garou, the werewolf, in spirits, and dark, ancient things. Your lover shares this terror. Every snap of a twig is a demon. Every howl of a distant wolf, and there are actual wolves, is a werewolf coming for her soul. You, on the other hand, are not afraid of werewolves. You're afraid of a farmer with a pitchfork, or a parish priest who might ask who you are. The real monster, you know, is always a man. The romance is now just baggage. You are dragging her, physically and emotionally. She doesn't have your stamina. She doesn't have your will. She was in love with the idea of you, the glamorous, dangerous performer on a stage. She is not in love with the reality, a cold, hungry, paranoid, and increasingly impatient fugitive. Historians still argue whether these intense romantic friendships of the era, particularly those in convents or schools, were understood by the participants as the spiritual, non-sexual unions of souls that their letters often describe, or if that was just the only language they had to safely describe a physical erotic love. Whatever this was, it was not a union of souls. It was a union of you, the apex predator, and her, the terrified, delicate creature you just dragged out of the zoo. And she wants to go back. The arguments start. I can't walk anymore. You have to. I'm hungry. We'll find an orchard. I want to go home. You stop. You look at her. You can't go home. They think you're dead. They think you're a pile of ashes in a burned-out cell. You are a ghost. This, it turns out, is the wrong thing to say. The love, that fierce, mutual obsession, has curdled into resentment. She looks at you, and she sees the person who destroyed her life, her family, her future, and her soul. You look at her, and you see a whiny, weak, ungrateful burden. The grand romantic gesture has collapsed into a petty, miserable camping trip that will not end. After months of this, you're somewhere near the border of Piedmont. You're both sick. You're both thin. You wake up one morning in another cold barn, and she's gone. She didn't just run. She took the last of your money and your small dagger. She has left you. You track her, of course. You're a hunter. It's not hard. You find her in the nearest village, at the church. She's on her knees, clinging to the local priest, sobbing, confessing everything. She has turned herself in. She has chosen the Inquisition over you. You stand in the back of the church, in the shadows. She sees you. Her eyes are full of terror. You just look at her. You don't draw your sword. You don't shout. You just turn, and you walk away. You have just burned down a convent for a girl who, in the end, was more afraid of you than she was of the church. You are alone. You are a wanted heretic, and the authorities in Avignon now have a star witness. And they have your name. You're walking away from the church. The sound of her sobbing, that thin, reedy sound of betrayal, is finally swallowed by the rustle of the wind in the olive trees. It's over. The grand, operatic, fire-starting romance has ended, not in a tragic duet, but in a tearful confession to a parish priest. You are alone. You're in peasant rags, and your ex-girlfriend is, at this very moment, giving the Inquisition a detailed, itemized list of your every sin. You have to admit, it's a pretty suboptimal outcome. You feel a strange, cold calm settle over you. The burden is gone. You no longer have to drag, protect, or feed the relationship. It's just you again, the way it was on the road with Sirens. Only this time you're not a performer. You are a heretic. You are the most wanted woman, or, as you're about to find out, man in the south of France. You don't see the trial, of course. You're not sent an invitation. You're busy trying to trap a rabbit for dinner and sleeping in ditches. Your sword digging into your back. Your nun's habit long since traded for a stolen farm hand's tunic. But back in Avignon, the great, creaking wheels of ecclesiastical justice are grinding. The news of the convent fire, the desecrated grave, and the kidnapped novice is the biggest scandal in a generation. The abbess, standing in the smoking ruins of her dormitory and, more tragically, her account books, is giving furious testimony. The merchant's family is giving theirs, a story of a pure, innocent girl corrupted by a demonic opera singer. And your lover, now a star witness and victim, is telling them everything, painting you as a diabolical, seductive monster. It's her only way to save her own skin. This is the mainstream historical fact of 17th century justice, the trial in absentia, the court. In this case, a tribunal of high-ranking clerics from the papal court at Avignon does not simply throw up its hands because the defendant has fled. That's called contumacy, and it's seen as a confession in itself. They proceed without you. This allows them to officially pronounce you guilty, to issue a sentence, and most importantly, to legally seize any property you might have and declare you an outlaw. But the tribunal has a problem. The crimes: arson, grave robbing, a sword fight in a tavern, kidnapping a young woman. These are manly crimes. Their 17th century worldview, which places women in a neat box labeled fainting and needlepoint, simply cannot process the reality of you. It's a conceptual error. It's like trying to divide by zero, so they fix it in a move of brilliant, terrifying legal logic. The court in Avignon officially charges you as a man. You are not tried as Julie Daubigny. You are tried as Sir de Maupin, Mr. Maupin. They legally declare that you are, in fact, a man who has been using witchcraft or demonic aid to disguise yourself as a woman. This is the only way. The charges, especially the corruption and kidnapping of a respectable young lady, make sense to their patriarchal, God-fearing minds. You're not just a sinner. You're a magical, gender-bending con artist sent by Satan. Historians still argue whether this bizarre legal regendering was a cold-blooded legal strategy or a genuine product of their theological confusion. Was it a misogynistic trick to deny you any of the very few legal allowances or lesser sentences that were sometimes afforded to weak-willed Women. Or were they truly, deeply convinced, on a theological level, that no actual woman could be capable of such masculine, calculated, and spectacular blasphemy? Either way, the Mr. in front of your name is a death warrant. The verdict, read aloud to an empty dock, is swift. Sieur de Maupin is found guilty on all counts: kidnapping, desecration, arson, and of course, the underlying charge of sodomy. The sentence is la folie, death by fire. You are to be burned alive. You find this out when you see the poster nailed to a church door in a village you were just trying to pass through. You see your name. You see the charges. You see the sentence, braille vif, burned alive. And here's the quirky tidbit of 17th century justice: since they can't burn you, they burn a stand-in. Somewhere in Avignon, you imagine a straw-stuffed effigy, perhaps dressed in a tattered opera costume, being solemnly tied to a stake in the public square. The clerics say their prayers. The torch is lit, and the crowd cheers as the straw Sieur de Maupin goes up in flames. It's the world's most depressing puppet show, and you're the star. But the effigy is just a placeholder. The sentence is real. The bounty is real. You are an outlaw, in the most literal sense. You are outside the law, outside the protection of God. Any man who finds you can, and is encouraged to, execute the sentence on the spot. You are standing in the road, the wanted poster crinkling in your hand. You are a fugitive from the Pope. But here is your one, tiny, desperate loophole. Avignon is papal territory. It is ruled by the Church. The rest of France is ruled by the King. And Louis XIV, the Sun King, despises the Pope interfering in his kingdom. He sees himself as the absolute, God-given authority in France. An Avignon court sentencing one of his subjects. That's not justice. That's a jurisdictional spat. You can't go south. You can't go east or west. You have to go north. You have to go back to Paris. You have to ride back into the lion's den. Back to Versailles. Back to the world of the Comte d'Armagnac, who you humiliated. You have to find a way to get to the one and only man in Europe who has the power and the sheer ego to tell the Pope to go stick his sentence in his mitre. You have to seek a royal pardon from the Sun King himself. It's a truly terrible plan. It's fleeing a volcano to hide in a different, slightly more fashionable volcano. It's the only plan you have. You turn north. You are running north. Every league, every muddy, frozen mile takes you further from the Pope's long arm and deeper into the King's territory. This is not the adventurous escape you made with Sirens. That was a flight from authority. This is a desperate, suicidal sprint towards it. You are a ghost, haunted and hunted. You sleep in frozen barns, your breath turning to ice on the rough wool of your stolen tunic. You steal eggs from hen houses and eat them raw. You are gone, your hair is a matted, filthy mess, and your face is thin and sharp with cold and hunger. But you are alive, and you are moving. The wanted poster is seared into your brain, braille vif, burned alive. It's a hell of a motivator. You finally see the familiar, sprawling, muddy, magnificent construction site that is the Chateau de Versailles. You've come full circle. You've fled this place as a runaway mistress, and you are returning as a condemned heretic. You can't exactly walk up to the main gate. The Swiss guards, with their gleaming halberds and puffed sleeves, will run you through just for looking poor and dirty. You are the literal opposite of the dress code. You are a social leper, a legal impossibility, and worst of all, you are embarrassing. You lurk in the shanty town of workshops, taverns, and lodgings that has sprung up around the palace to house the 50,000 workers, artisans, and servants. You are just one more shadow in a city of shadows. You need a way in. You need an advocate. You need your dad. You find him, Gaston d'Aubigny, your father, the respectable secretary to the Grand Squire of France. You corner him in the morning as he walks from his modest lodgings to the grand stable. You step out of an alley. Father. He stops. He looks at you. He sees a filthy, rail-thin young man in peasant rags with a sword. He's about to call the guard. Then he looks at your eyes. You see the recognition. You see the blood drain from his face. His daughter, who he thought was, who knows, disappeared, dead, is here. And she looks like this. You tell him the short version. I'm in trouble. The Church. Avignon. They sentence me to be burned. His reaction is not a warm embrace. It's pure, undiluted terror. You are not just a family embarrassment. You are a bomb that has just landed in the middle of his carefully constructed, respectable life. He drags you into his rooms, hissing at you to stay quiet. You are a heretic. You are a condemned outlaw. Harboring you is a crime. He is risking his own neck, his job, his life, just by letting you in his door. You tell him the whole story. The convent. The girl. The fire. The dead nun. The trial in absentia. He's pacing, his face pale. He is a courtier. He understands power. And you have just picked a fight with the Pope. You're mad, he whispers. You're insane. They'll burn all of us. You have to help me, you say. You have to get me to the Comte. This stops him. The Comte d'Armagnac. That is your plan. You humiliated him. You ran out on him. He will hand you to the guards himself, and he'll do it with a smile. He's my only chance, you insist. He's your boss. You have to ask him. You are asking your father to go to his powerful employer and say, "Excuse me, mon Comte, but my daughter, the one who ran off with a duelist and made you a laughingstock, has just returned. She's currently wanted for capital arson and heresy in Avignon, and we were wondering if you could possibly arrange a quick chat with the king for her." Terrible inconvenience, I know. It's the worst bring your daughter to work day in history. Gaston, trembling, does it. Historians still argue whether his decision was driven by a last, flickering spark of paternal love, or by the cold, courtier's calculation that if this blew up, he was ruined anyway, and his only chance was to get ahead of the scandal. He goes to the Comte d'Armagnac. You, of course, are not there, but you can imagine the scene. The Grand Squire of France, the master of the horse, listening to this insane story. He should, by all rights, have you arrested. But he doesn't. Why? This is the mainstream historical fact that saves your life, Gallicanism. It was the long-held belief that the French king, not the Pope, had ultimate authority over the Catholic Church in France. Louis XIV was the biggest Gallican of them all. He hated papal overreach. And this, a papal court in Avignon, sentencing a French subject and, by extension, a subject under the Comte's protection to death by fire. This isn't justice. It's a political insult. It's a challenge to the king's absolute authority. The Comte sees an angle. This is no longer about his runaway mistress. This is about politics. This is a chance for him to present the king with a perfect opportunity to smack down the Pope. He agrees. A spontaneous encounter is arranged. This is the quirky tidbit of Versailles life. The king's entire day was a public performance. To get his ear, you didn't schedule a meeting. You simply had to be in the right hallway at the right time. You are cleaned up as much as possible, and the Comte and your father position you in the Hall of Mirrors as the king is walking from his private apartments to the chapel for mass. You see him, Louis XIV. He is in his 50s, at the absolute zenith of his power. He is not tall, but the red-heeled shoes and the mountain of a wig give him height. His presence is so absolute, so overpowering, it's like the sun has indeed walked into the room. The entire court, 100 rustling, perfumed nobles, parts before him. The Comte d'Armagnac steps forward and bows. Your Majesty. He gestures to you. You fall to your knees. You don't dare look at his face. You just stare at the marble floor. The Comte presents your case. He doesn't mention the girl. He doesn't mention the romance. He frames it as a youthful indiscretion, a crime of passion. He focuses, laser-like, on the real issue. She has been sentenced, Your Majesty. Not by your courts, by the tribunal in Avignon. They seek to burn a subject of France. The king stops. The entire hall is silent. He looks at you, a trembling, kneeling, androgynous thing on his floor. He looks at his Grand Squire. He understands the political subtext immediately. He has a sense of humor. He is, perhaps, amused by the sheer, unmitigated gall of it all. He's a man who appreciates grand gestures, and you've just pulled off one of the grandest. He makes his decision in an instant. We cannot have the courts of Avignon disciplining our subjects, he declares. Their judgment is void. He looks at you. You are pardoned. Just like that, with a wave of his hand. The Pope's sentence, the fire, the bounty, the in absentia trial, all of it, gone, erased by the king. You are alive. You are legal. But he's not done. Such fire should not be wasted, the king says, a small, cold smile on his lips. D'Armagnac, your little protégé sings, does she not? The Comte, bowing, says, like an angel, Your Majesty. Good, the king says, already starting to walk away. The Académie Royale is in need of new voices. See that she auditions. He has not just pardoned you. He has hired you. You are to take your chaotic, blasphemous, passionate energy and channel it, not into burning down convents, but into his new, state-controlled art form, the Paris Opera. You are kneeling on the marble floor of Versailles, and the King of France has just told you to get a job. It's not a suggestion. It's not career counseling. It is a royal command, wrapped in the silk glove of a courtly suggestion. You are pardoned, yes, but you are now his. Your pardon is conditional on your usefulness. Your voice, your fire, you are now an asset of the state. The Comte d'Armagnac, looking relieved that you didn't just get him executed for treason, lifts you by the elbow. Your father is somewhere in the background, probably hyperventilating into a silk handkerchief. You are to report to the Académie Royale de Musique. You are going to the Paris Opera. You leave Versailles, a place you've now entered as a pageant training, a kept mistress, and a condemned heretic. You're really collecting the full set of experiences. You head back into Paris, but not to the dirty, medieval alleys of your memory. You are going to the Salle du Palais Royal. You stand before it. If you're picturing the modern, gold-encrusted Palais Garnier with its grand staircase, you are in the wrong century. The opera house of your day is a converted theater inside the palace of the Duc d'Orléans. It's intimate, but it's also the most technologically advanced stage in the world. This isn't just a theater, it's a machine. This is the mainstream historical fact of your new life. The Académie Royale de Musique was the personal, state-funded propaganda wing of the Sun King. It was founded by the legendary and legendarily tyrannical Jean-Baptiste Lully, the king's court composer, who had died just a few years before you arrived. Lully's entire job was to create a new, uniquely French style of opera, the tragedy and musique. Why? Because Louis XIV was in a culture war with Italy, and he refused to be outdone. Italian opera was all about the singers, the virtuoso sopranos, and the superstar castrati, who showed off with vocal fireworks. Louis and Lully found this indulgent and effeminate. Their new French opera was to be different. It was to be about le bon goût, good taste, about the poetry always in French, about the drama, and above all, about the spectacle. It was a machine for creating glory. You walk in. The air is thick with the smell of sawdust, melted glue from the scenery, and the faint, dusty scent of old costumes. A rehearsal is in progress. A man is on stage, dressed as a Roman god, singing about his glorious torment, while three stage hands try to untangle the wires that are supposed to be making him fly. It's chaos, but it's organized chaos. You are brought to the director, Lully's successor. He's a man named Jean-Nicolas de Francine, who is, incidentally, Lully's son-in-law. The entire operation is a tight, familiar monopoly. He looks at you. He's heard the story. The Comte sent you. The king suggested you. He's stuck with you. He sees a wild-looking, androgynous woman in her late teens or early 20s who looks more like a duelist than a diva. So, you can almost hear him sigh. The king's little project. You sing. It's the Marcellus audition all over again, but the stakes are 1,000,000 times higher. You're not trying to win a few lives from a provincial impresario. You are auditioning for the personal entertainment of the Sun King. You stand on the stage. You plant your feet. You sing. And the voice that comes out is not the voice they are used to. The fashion in Paris is for light, high, agile sopranos who can trill and ornament. You, La Maupin, are a contralto. A true one. Your voice is deep. It's dark. It's powerful. It has a smoky, androgynous quality that opera nerds call a voix de Stender, a voice of Stender, the loud voice herald from the Iliad. It's a woman's voice, but it has the power and the timbre of a man's. Here's a quirky tidbit about the specific world you're entering. French opera, unlike Italian, had a deep aversion to castrati, the male singers castrated as boys to preserve their high voices. The French found the practice barbaric and the resulting sound unnatural. Instead, for their heroic male leads, they championed the haute conture, a natural, high, and extremely powerful tenor voice. But this left a gap. What about the other roles? The sorceresses, the warrioresses, the avenging deities, the exotic foreign queens? They're looking at you, and they are seeing a goldmine. You are a casting solution. You are the special effect. You're the woman who can sing the pants off everyone else, who can actually handle a sword in the stage fights, who moves with the swagger of a duelist, and who has a voice that sounds like it could command legions or summon storms. You are hired instantly. You are given a contract. You have a salary. You are, officially, a member of the Académie Royale de Musique. This is your reinvention. You are not Julie Daubigny, the secretary's daughter. You are not Sister Ange, the heretic. You are, from this moment on, Mademoiselle de Maupin, or, as the public will affectionately and famously call you, La Maupin. You have taken your inconvenient husband's name, the name of the tax collector in the South, and you have turned it into the single most electric stage name in Paris. Historians still argue whether the rigid, state-controlled, Lullian monopoly you just joined, which held the exclusive right to produce some drama in all of France, was a creative greenhouse or a gilded prison. Did this system, by squashing all competition, stifle French musical innovation for 50 years? Or was it the only reason a uniquely French-style noble, clear, and dance bass was able to bloom, protecting it from being simply overrun by the wildly popular Italian style? You, frankly, do not care about the academic theory. You've got a job, you've got a stage, and you have a royal pardon that makes you, for the moment, untouchable. You have failed your way to the absolute pinnacle of your profession. You are a 19-year-old walking, talking, sword-fighting scandal, and you are now the newest and most bizarre salaried employee of the King of France. You've been given a platform. You've been given an audience. You've been given a stage. You can already feel the old, familiar itch, the boredom, the restlessness. This is all very nice, but it's a little bit dull. It's time to start a little trouble. You are, officially, a diva. It's a new word, an Italian import, and it fits you like a glove, or, perhaps, like a perfectly balanced sword hilt. You are the newest, and by far the strangest, member of the Académie Royale de Musique. Your colleagues, the other singers, don't know what to make of you. The sopranos are all delicate, refined creatures who have spent their lives learning to trill. The tenors are puffed-up peacocks, all ego and high notes, and then there's you, who they've seen practicing lunges against a wall backstage, your tunic dark with sweat, your sword moving in a blur. You don't trill, you sing. Your debut is in a new production. Let's say it's Enniet Lavigne Aeneas and Lavinia by Pascal Callas, Lully's successor. You are not, of course, cast as the delicate Princess Lavinia. You are cast en travesti in the clothes of the opposite sex. You are to play a young warrior. Perhaps ask Aeneas, Aeneas' son, or one of his lieutenants. On opening night, the Salle du Palais Royal is packed. The king isn't here. He rarely comes to Paris anymore, but his brother, Monsieur, the Duc d'Orléans, is, along with the entire glittering, gossiping, vicious aristocracy of Paris. The audience is a character in itself. This is a quirky tidbit of 17th century theater. The parter. This was the standing roomanly pit in front of the stage. It was cheap, it was packed, and it was exclusively male. The parter was the most powerful and most feared group of critics in France. They were legendarily rowdy. If they liked you, they roared. If they hated you, they would hiss, boo, throw rotten fruit, and literally start riots until the performance was stopped. They had ended careers in a single night. You're not just singing for the nobles in their velvet boxes, you're singing for them. Your cue comes. You walk on stage. You are in a plumed helmet and a stylized, fantastical Roman breastplate, your legs in breeches, which, for you, is just getting back to normal. The opera calls for a martial display, a stage duel. The actor playing your opponent, a Trojan rival, draws his blade. He's an actor. He's learned the stage choreography. Clank, clank, pause, lunge, clank. You draw your sword and you don't clank. You give the audience what you learn in the Grande Écurie. You give them a real assault. You explode into a flurry of parries and ripostes. So fast the actor you're fighting goes pale, his eyes wide with real, unscripted terror. You disarm him with a flankenade that sends his sword spinning into the wings. You put your boot on his chest, your blade at his throat. You have just given the most realistic sword fight in the history of the Paris Opera. The parter goes silent. You've got them. And then you open your mouth. You sing your first air, and this dark, powerful, soulful contralto voice pours out of this warrior, this boy. It's a sound that doesn't make sense. It's too beautiful to be a man, too powerful to be a woman. The cognitive dissonance is so profound, so thrilling, that the entire audience just stops breathing. You finish your aria. The silence stretches for 1, 2, 3 beats, and then the parter erupts. It's not applause, it's a roar, it's a stampede. Men are throwing their hats in the air. They are shouting, LA Maupin, LA Maupin. You haven't just won, you have conquered. You become the talk of Paris overnight. You are the ultimate novelty. This is the mainstream historical fact of your success, the entravesti role, while the Italians, as you might remember, used castrati for high-voice male heroes. The French rejected them, but they loved casting women as young mythological heroes, pages, and warriors. It was a beloved convention, but you are not just a woman playing a warrior. You are a warrior. You have taken a theatrical convention and made it terrifyingly, thrillingly real. Historians still argue whether the wild popularity of entravesti roles was just a simple titillating novelty or if it provided a deeply coded safe space for the rigid 17th century audience to explore the fascinating and deeply forbidden themes of androgyny, gender fluidity, and non-normative desire. You, La Maupin, are the living, breathing, sword-fighting embodiment of that taboo ambiguity. You are a star. You originate role after role. You are not just the fighting boy. You are cast as the great sorceresses, the vengeful goddesses, the warrior queens. You sing in Didin Dido by Henry Desmarais. You create the role of the warrior maiden Clarine in Tancred by André Campra. A role written specifically for you. A part that requires you to sing some of the most demanding music of the era while in full armor. You are the toast of the salons. You have money, real money. You have apartments in Paris. You have fans who send you love letters from both men and women. You have power. You can walk into any room and people stop talking. They are either thrilled or terrified, usually both. You are the new diva. You are La Maupin. You have everything you ever thought you wanted, and of course, you are almost immediately, profoundly and dangerously bored. The opera is a machine. It's rehearsal, performance, rehearsal, performance. It's the same thing, night after night. You have a royal pardon, a steady salary, and the adoration of millions. For a creature like you, this is just another, very beautiful cage. And you are, as always, already looking for the door, or, failing that, a way to set the cage on fire. You are bored. This, for you, is the most dangerous state of being. The applause is wonderful, a nightly roar of affirmation, but it's predictable. The roles are glorious, but they are written. You are, once again, living in a structure you did not build. You are an employee, and you are, constitutionally, a terrible employee. You have a boss, a schedule, and a set of rules. Your entire life has been a systematic demolition of these three things. The backstage of the Académie Royale de Musique is about to discover what the convent in Avignon already knows. You do not play well with others. You're standing in the wings. Let's get a good look at your new office. The backstage of the Salle du Palais Royal is not the spacious, glamorous world you might imagine. It's a cramped, filthy, and terrifyingly hot workshop. The air is a thick soup of odors, the metallic tang of melting gray Spain, a lovely mix of lead, vinegar, and pig fat. The sour smell of sweat from 20 unwashed woolen velvet costumes, the powdery, stifling scent of powdered wigs, and the ever-present, greasy smoke of hundreds of tallow candles. It's a miracle the entire building doesn't go up in flames every single night. This is a world of rigid, brutal hierarchy. It's Versailles in miniature, but with more drama and worse plumbing. This is the mainstream historical fact of your new career. The opera was a royal institution, and its troupe was organized with military precision. You have the premier tenor, the lead tenor, who thinks he's a god. You have the premier soprano, who knows she's a goddess. Then you have the seconds, the troisièmes, and way down on the bottom, the chorus, who are basically just well-dressed, warbling furniture. Your rank dictates your pay, the size of your dressing room, or, more likely, the half-o-fackless that you share, and even, comically, the number of feathers you're allowed to wear in your headdress. And you, La Maupin, have just been shoved into this delicate, poisonous ecosystem. The other singers despise you. You didn't come up through the ranks. You didn't spend a decade as a troisième singing the king approaches 3 nights a week. You were a heretic, a bar fighter, a royal scandal, and the king, on a whim, made you a star. You are a walking, talking, sword-carrying insult to their entire professional lives. Your chief rival is, naturally, the premier soprano. Let's call her Marthe Larocque, a real and celebrated singer of the day. She is everything you are not, a model of professionalism, a master of the precise, delicate, Lullian style. Her voice is a silver flute, yours is a bronze trumpet. She plays the game. She is polite to the director. She curtsies to the patrons. She has built her career on perfection. You have built yours on raw power and a convent fire. You can feel her watching you, her smile as thin and sharp as a stiletto. You do not engage in the subtle, backstage politics. You do not understand the art of the poison compliment, or the well-timed anonymous rumor. Your method of conflict resolution is, as always, direct. A tenor, one of the haute contres named Dumasnil, is a notorious drunk and a bully. He's popular with the parter, but a nightmare backstage. He sees you, the king's pet, the fighting girl, and he sees a target. He bumps you in the corridor. He mutters an insult, just loud enough for you to hear. Something about boys who sing soprano or girls who think they're men. You stop. The corridor, crowded with stage hands and chorus girls, goes silent. What did you say? Dumasnil, drunk and arrogant, puffs out his chest. I said, it's a shame the king's new pet smells more like his stable than his opera. You don't slap him. You don't challenge him to a duel. That would be too formal. You just hit him, a straight duelist jab with your fist, right in his throat. He goes down, gagging, his eyes wide. He's clutching his larynx, the source of his entire career. In pure, white-knuckled panic, you lean down, your face inches from his. The next time, you whisper, so only he can hear. I'll use my sword, and I won't be aiming for your throat. I'll be aiming for the source of your bad manners. You walk away. The story is all over Paris by breakfast. Dumas Nil, humiliated at being laid out by a woman, tries to complain to the director. The director, Francine, just sighs. What can he do? Suspend you? The parter would burn the theater down. This is your new power, and you are learning to wield it. You've stumbled on a quirky tidbit of Parisian theater life, the claque. These were the original super fans, but they weren't just enthusiastic, they were organized. A singer would pay a chef de claque a fee, and he would fill the parter with his men, who were given free tickets. Their job, to cheer, stomp, and scream Magnifique at everything their employer sang, and to hiss, boo, and throw apple cores at their rivals. The backstage rivalries were fought, by proxy, in the audience. You, of course, have the best claque in Paris. You don't even have to pay them. The rowdy students and soldiers of the parter just love you. They are your personal army. Historians still argue whether the more outrageous stories of your backstage temper are literal truth or just a valuable PR. Did you really chase a stage manager with a drawn sword because he missed your Deus Ex Machina fling machine cue? Did you really stab Dumas Nil with a fork at a cast dinner? The truth is, it doesn't matter. The legend is the truth. You have cultivated an aura of such volatile, dangerous unpredictability that no one dares cross you. The other singers learn. They stay out of your way. They give you the best spot by the brazier. They forget to challenge you for the lead roles. You have, in your own, deeply dysfunctional way, solved the problem of backstage politics. You are no longer playing the game. You are the board. You are the biggest, most dangerous, most beloved, and most terrifying star in France. And the night is young. Your new life as the untouchable, explosive diva of the Paris Opera has its perks. You have a salary. You have fans. You have a reputation so fearsome that even the most arrogant tenors give you a wide berth. But as always, you are restless. You are a creature of fire, and your job, while glorious, has become a routine of painted backdrops and predictable applause. You are a duelist who has run out of opponents. So, when the invitation arrives, you see it not as a social obligation, but as a new and promising stage. It's an invitation to a bal masque, a masked ball at the Palais Royal. This is not just any party. This is the inner sanctum, the home of your ultimate patron, Philippe I, Duc d'Orléans, the king's own brother. You are, in effect, being invited to the most exclusive and decadent party on planet Earth. You arrive, the heat hits you first, a wall of perfume and human warmth. The grand gallery is lit by, and you're not exaggerating, 10,000 beeswax candles. Their light reflecting off 100 mirrors, glittering on the jewels and gold thread of 500 costumes. The air is so thick with cloying, expensive scents, musk, ambergris, and powdered jasmine that it's hard to breathe. It's the 17th century version of walking into a department store's perfume section. If that section were also on fire and full of aristocrats. A string orchestra is sawing away at a relentless minuet by Lully. And the costumes. You see men dressed as Greek gods, their faces hidden by golden masks. You see women as shepherdesses, nymphs, and Roman goddesses, their masks held on sticks. This is the mainstream historical fact of your host, Philippe d'Orléans, or Monsieur, as he was known, was the glittering, openly effeminate, and fabulous counterpoint to his brother, the Sun King. While Louis was all about order, majesty, and rigid control, Monsieur's court within a court at the Palais Royal was a famous hotbed of libertinage. It was a world of gender bending, of Italian taste, of extravagant, decadent parties where the mass provided a delicious, paper-thin veil of anonymity. This, in other words, is your home turf. You, naturally, have come en travesti. You are wearing an impeccable black silk domino, a man's coat of the finest cut, high-heeled shoes, and a plumed hat set at a jaunty, arrogant angle. Your face is hidden by a simple black velvet mask, and at your hip, as essential to your outfit as your shoes, is your sword. You are just one of 200 handsome young noblemen in the room. You mingle. You drink the king's, or rather, Monsieur's champagne. You lean against a marble pillar, watching the chaos with a duelist's appraising eye. You are bored. It's just Versailles, but with masks. Then, you see her. She is dressed as Diana, the huntress. Her mask is silver, but it can't hide the famous pouting lips or the cascade of blonde hair. She's young, she's beautiful, and she is, you know instantly, appallingly high status, a duchess at least. She is surrounded by a cloud of fawning shepherds and Gods, all trying to get her attention. And she is looking right at you. Here's a quirky tidbit for you. The bow mask had its own complex, silent language. The way a woman held her fan snap. You are cruel. Flutter. I am interested. The way a man bowed. The presentation of a bonbon, it was all a coded, high-stakes game of flirtation. You, La Maupin, find this exhausting. You don't signal, you act. You push off the pillar and walk straight through her crowd of admirers. You bow, a deep, sweeping, theatrical bow that you've perfected on stage. Madam, you say. Your low contralto voice, so famously androgynous, cutting through the music. You are the goddess of the hunt. Tell me, what is it you are hunting for tonight? She laughs. She's intrigued by this bold, masked man who doesn't fawn. You offer your arm. She takes it. You lead her away from the crowd, into an alcove, half hidden by a tapestry. You talk. You are charming. You are the star of the opera, after all. You know how to play a scene. She is enchanted. She leans in. Who are you, monsieur? She whispers. A magician. You whisper back, and you kiss her. It is not a polite, courtly peck. It's a real, passionate, operating third act kiss. She is shocked, then. She kisses you back. The game is won. You pull back. She is breathless, her eyes sparkling. You lift your mask. Just for a moment, she sees your face. La Maupin, the singer, the duelist. The woman. Her eyes go wide, and then, to your delight, she throws her head back and laughs, a genuine. Thrilled. This is the best Cleophally laugh, but the scene has been observed. 3 young noblemen, 3 of the fawning shepherds you brushed aside, have followed you. They are drunk on wine and entitlement. They have just seen this thing, this performer, this hired help. Kiss their duchess. They corner you, their masks doing nothing to hide their aristocratic rage. Sire, one of them hisses, his hand on his own decorative sword hilt. You are filth. You will apologize to the lady, and then you will leave. You look at him. You look at his two friends. You look at the duchess, who is watching this with the keen interest of someone at a play. You turn back to the young noble, and you smile. No, you say, your voice perfectly calm. I don't think I will. One of them, the bravest or the drunkest, slaps you across the face with his glove. The music seems to stop. The duchess gasps. This is it. The ultimate formal challenge. So be it, you say. You look at all 3 of them. But the list is long and I am busy. Shall we do this one at a time, or all at once to save time? This, to them, is the final unthinkable joke. This boy is challenging 3 of them. All at once, one of them snarls. Place devicours now. Historians still argue whether this, the most famous incident of your life, was a genuine, passionate defense of a woman you just met, or a staggering, calculated act of public relations theater. Were you defending your honor? Or were you, the ultimate performer, simply incapable of not being the main character, seizing an opportunity to create your own legend in the middle of the king's own party? As you wish, you say. You bow to the duchess. Madam, I will be back to finish our conversation. Try not to miss me. You adjust your mask, turn on your red heel, and stride out of the ballroom, leaving a trail of stunned silence and the faint, giddy laughter of a duchess who has a fantastic story to tell. You are heading for a 3-on-1 duel. For you, it's just another Tuesday night. You stride out of the Palais Royal, the heat and the sound of the orchestra fading behind you. The cold Paris night hits you like a slap. You're walking fast, your high heels clicking on the cobblestones. You are not running. You are not scared. You are, if you're honest with yourself, thrilled. You are, for the first time in months, finally, about to do something interesting. You're on your way to the Place des Victoires, a new, magnificent, and at this hour, completely deserted public square. It's the perfect, most ironic stage. The Place des Victoires is a monument to your savior, Louis XIV. It's a vast stone circle of perfectly uniform, elegant architecture. And in the very center, looming over you, is a colossal, gilded bronze statue of the king himself, dressed as a Roman emperor, his foot trampling a 3-headed dog representing the vanquished nations. You are, in effect, about to commit a capital crime directly under the gaze of a 30-foot gilded statue of the one man who can have you beheaded for it. You can't help but admire the theatricality of it all. You hear them behind you. The 3 shepherds, they are still in their ridiculous, bare-ribbon costumes, and they are drunk. But they are also noblemen. They have their swords. They are here to defend their point d'honneur. Their point of honor. You need to understand what you're doing. This isn't a tavern brawl. This isn't a backstage spat with a tenor. This is a duel. And dueling is the mainstream historical fact and the ultimate taboo of Louis XIV's France. The king hated dueling. He didn't hate it because it was violent. He was the most warlike king in Europe. He hated it because it was private violence. It was the aristocracy taking the law and the power of life and death into their own hands. It was a rejection of his absolute authority. He saw every drop of noble blood spilled in a misty field as a theft from his armies. He had issued edict after edict, most famously the Edict of 1679, making dueling a capital crime. The penalty was not prison. It was not a fine. It was death, decapitation. And unlike in the past, Louis was famously unforgiving on this point. He had made an example of some of the highest-ranking nobles in the land, beheading them in public to prove he was not joking. You have a royal pardon in your pocket, a golden get-out-of-jail-free card for a spectacular list of other capital crimes. You are, by all accounts, on probation from God and the king. And you are, not a month later, about to spit on the one law the king holds most sacred. The three nobles spread out, forming a half-circle. The moonlight glints on their blades. They are not stage fighting. These are court-trained fencers. You will pay for your insolence. Chantus, one of them spits. They know who you are. The mask is just a formality now. 3 against 1, you say, drawing your own blade. The sound of steel, that high, clean sheeting, echoes in the empty square. My. The odds seem almost fair. For you, the first one lunges. He's all rage. A clumsy flankinade you've seen 1,000 times. You don't even move your feet. You parry sixth. A simple block, and in the same motion, you riposte, your blade moving like a needle, flicking his wrist. He screams, a high, thin sound, and his sword clatters on the stone. He's disarmed, clutching his hand. 1 down. The second one is smarter. He's watching. He comes at you with a more cautious feint, a fake-out. But you were trained by the masters of the Grande Écurie. You don't fence with your arm, you fence with your brain. You see the intention before he moves. You step inside his lunge, a move so dangerous and unexpected he freezes. You don't run him through. You slam your sword's hilt into his masked face. You hear a satisfying, wet crunch as his nose breaks. He goes down, gurgling, his shepherd's costume now looking suspiciously realistic with a lot of red. To down, the third one, who was just about to lunge, just stops. He's sober now. He is standing in a public square at 2 a.m. in a sheep costume. His 2 friends are on the ground. And he is facing Maupin, who is not even breathing hard. You just look at him. You raise one eyebrow, a perfect gesture. He lowers his sword. He drops it. It's over. This entire episode is a perfect, quirky tidbit illustrating the madness of the point dunner. Why did these men, who were rich, powerful, and had everything to live for, risk beheading to fight a singer in a mask because 17th century noble honor was a fragile, metaphysical gas? It could be stained by a look, by a word, by being kissed by a woman they wanted to kiss. You didn't just insult them, you had publicly humiliated them. Not fighting you would have been social suicide, a stain they could never wash off. Historians still argue whether Louis's famous anti-dueling laws, which were reissued over and over, ever actually worked. Did they stop dueling? Or did they just make it more secretive? The evidence suggests the latter. The laws just moved the duels from high noon in the Place Royale to dawn in the Bois de Boulogne. The aristocracy was, in its own passive-aggressive way, refusing to give up its right to murder its own members. You, however, are the ultimate expression of this. You are not even an aristocrat. You are a performer. You have, by dueling and winning against 3 noblemen, not just broken the king's law, but shattered the entire social order. A commoner, a woman, has just defeated 3 men of ancient blood. You wipe your blade clean on the silk domino of the man with the broken nose. You sheathe it. You look up at the giant, impassive bronze face of Louis XIV. My apologies, your majesty, you whisper, with a small, mocking curtsy. They insisted. You turn on your heel. You walk out of the Place des Victoires, leaving 3 groaning, bleeding, and profoundly humiliated men to be found by the morning watch. You adjust your mask. You brush a speck of dust, or maybe blood from your shoulder. You are walking back to the Palais Royal, back to the party. You have a duchess to find. You walk back into the ballroom of the Palais Royal, and the change is palpable. The music is still playing, a jaunty bury now, but the news of your excursion has traveled faster than you did. It has ripped through the masked ball like a spark on a fuse. The whispers part as you walk through the room. You are no longer just La Maupin, the king's new singer. You are a living legend. You are the woman who just dueled 3 noblemen at once, in a mask, in the middle of a party, and came back for more champagne. You find the Duchess. She is exactly where you left her, though she's now surrounded by a new, much more respectful, and slightly terrified crowd. She sees you. Her eyes, above her silver mask, are wide and shining. She doesn't laugh this time. She just stares. You offer your arm, as if you just stepped away to fetch a cold drink. "My apologies, madam," you say, your voice perfectly level. The air outside was disagreeable. Now, where were we? She takes your arm. The rest of the night, you do not leave her side. And no one, not a single plum and hat-wearing god or shepherd, dares to even look at her again. You have become the ultimate social status symbol, the most dangerous, most fascinating, and most talked about person in Paris. This night cements your new identity. You are the absolute, undisputed center of the Parisian libertinage. This is a quirky tidbit of your new world, the libertines. They are a subculture of jaded aristocrats, cynical poets, and wealthy atheists who have decided that God is a bore, the king is a tyrant, though they'd never say it that loud, and the only true meaning in life is the pursuit of refined, intelligent, and often deviant pleasure. You are their mascot. You are their poster child. You are the living proof that one can live entirely by one's own rules. Spit in the eye of the church, duel the nobility, sleep with whomever you please, and not just survive, but become a superstar. You dive headfirst into this new, intoxicating sea. You take lovers. Many, many lovers. You take them with the casual, joyful, and utterly unapologetic appetite of a duelist sampling new opponents. You have a string of high-profile affairs that keep the gossip mongers of Paris in business. You have a passionate, public romance with the premier soprano you once feuded with, let's say it's Fanchon Moreau, another real-life singer. The two of you, the two lead divas of the opera, are seen walking arm in arm, sharing a carriage. And this, of course, drives the parter into a frenzy of delight. Then you tire of her. You have an affair with a young, pretty boy marquis who writes terrible poetry for you. You break his heart. You are, in modern terms, spectacularly and unapologetically pansexual. You don't care about the gender, you care about the drama. But you are walking a tightrope. This is the mainstream historical fact of your world. You are still an artist, and artists require patrons. You are not free. You are a high-class, salaried employee of the king, on loan to his brother. Your talent is your job, but your protection is what keeps you alive. Your royal pardon for the whole convent for heresy is not a blanket immunity. You still have to answer to someone. You are still, in effect, property. You are just the most expensive, most dangerous, and most high-maintenance property in the kingdom. Historians still argue whether your whirlwind of affairs was driven by a genuine, unbridled, and modern-seeming sexual liberation, or if it was a series of deeply cynical, calculated career moves. Was each new lover the duke, the countess, the wealthy banker a new piece on your chessboard? A new layer of protection, a new source of income and influence? Or were you just a creature of pure, chaotic impulse, falling in and out of love and lust with no more thought than you gave to choosing a breakfast wine? The truth is, it was probably both. Your passions were real, but your survival instincts were flawless. This life of opera, duels, and decadent parties lasts for years. But you are La Maupin. The routine, even a routine of pure hedonism, eventually becomes a routine. The applause is the same. The lovers are the same, just with different faces. You are getting bored. And then a new offer comes. A big one. The offer is from Brussels. Maximilian II Emmanuel, the Elector of Bavaria, is holding court there as the governor of the Spanish Netherlands. He is one of the most powerful, richest, and most famous soldiers in Europe. He is a man of colossal ego and colossal appetites. And he has heard stories of you. He wants you. He wants this legendary, sword-fighting, opera-singing, bisexual creature for his own court. He offers you an astronomical sum of money to come to Brussels, to sing for him, and to be his mattress and tighter. His official mistress. You are 25. You are at the height of your fame in Paris. And you are restless. Brussels sounds new. It sounds foreign. It sounds interesting. You accept. You pack your bags. You kiss your current male and female lovers goodbye, and you ride out of Paris. You arrive in Brussels. The Elector, Max Emmanuel, is delighted. He showers you with jewels, with gowns which you rarely wear, and with a magnificent horse. He fawns over you for about a week. Then the disaster. You, La Maupin, are not a pet. You are not a demure, grateful, high-class concubine who will sit quietly and look pretty. You are you. You are opinionated. You are loud. You are armed. He, the elector, is a soldier, a Bluebeard type, a man who is used to giving orders and being obeyed. He finds your fire charming until you turn it on him. You have a public fight at dinner. He criticizes your singing. You, in turn, criticize his. Well, let's say you criticize his electoral strategy. You tell him he may be a soldier, but he has the musical taste of a deaf goat. The court freezes. No one speaks to the elector like this. He is not the Sun King, all icy control. He is a Bavarian soldier, and he has a temper. He is humiliated. He is furious. He decides to teach you a lesson. He decides to put you back in your place. The next day, a court messenger arrives at your lavish apartments. He carries an enormous, bulging purse of money. It is, he says, 40,000 lives. A king's ransom. His Highness sends this as a final gift, the messenger says, bowing. He considers your services paid in full. He requests that you be gone by nightfall. He has just, very publicly, fired you. And he has done it in the most insulting way possible. He hasn't released you from your contract. He has paid you. He has reclassified you from artist and mistress to prostitute. You look at the bag of money. It's a fortune. It's more money than you've ever seen. You could live on this for a decade. You look at the terrified messenger. You walk over to the open window of your apartment. You pick up the heavy bag of gold, and you throw it. You hurl the entire fortune out the window, into the muddy street below. The messenger shrieks, "A whore's pay!" You yell so the whole courtyard can hear you. Go back and tell your little elector that Maupin does not accept tips. And tell him he's lucky I don't charge him for the insult to my senses. You are, once again, broke. You are, once again, a fugitive. You have just publicly humiliated one of the most powerful rulers in Europe. You slam the door, grab your sword, and flee Brussels before he can have you arrested, or just quietly murdered. You are back on the road. You're back on the road. You are, once again, a professional refugee, fleeing an insulted European power. You've just thrown a year's salary for a duke out a window in Brussels, purely for the theatrical style of it. You are, in short, extremely and inconveniently broke. You are riding a borrowed horse, which is a polite 17th century way of saying you stole it from the elector's stable. You're heading back to France, the only place on earth where your particular brand of chaos is not just tolerated, but celebrated. You are, however, worried. You didn't just leave the Paris Opera. You abandoned your contract, your sacred post as a singer of the king, to go and be the plaything of a Bavarian prince. And now you've blown that up, literally. You're about to show up on the director's doorstep like a stray cat, covered in mud and scandal, and ask for your old job back. You're lucky that you are Maupin. You are the biggest box office draw in Paris. They are, you know, furious with you. But you also know they need you. You ride back into Paris. You get your old apartment. You go to the opera house. The director, Francine, screams at you for an hour. He calls you irresponsible, insane, and a disgrace. You stand there and take it, with a slightly bored, penitent look you perfected in the convent. When he's finally out of breath, you just raise an eyebrow. So, you say, "What part am I singing Friday?" You're back. The parter roars. The sopranos hiss. The tenors avoid eye contact. Everything is back to normal. You are Maupin, back on your throne. Then, one afternoon, there is a knock on your apartment door. You are not expecting anyone. You open it. There is a man standing in your hallway. He is unremarkable. He's in his mid-30s, perhaps. He has a respectable, slightly thinning haircut. He is wearing a good, sober, dark wool suit, the kind a provincial notaire might wear. He is, in every conceivable way, the most stunningly average man you have ever seen in your life. He looks like he smells of paper and mild soap. He is holding his hat in his hands. He peers at you, his expression one of polite confusion. "Pardon, madam," he says, his voice as gray as his suit. "I am looking for a Madame de Maupin." You just stare at him. Your brain, which is used to processing threats from duelists, popes, and princes, is struggling to categorize this. This man is not a threat. He is not a fan. He is a piece of admin. "I am Madame de Maupin," you say. He looks at you, at your breeches, your fencing shirt, the sword you have propped against the wall. His eyes go wide, just for a second. "Ah," he says, then, "I am Sieur de Maupin. Your husband. It's him. The tax collector. The convenient, human-shaped box you were put in a decade ago and promptly forgot. He's real. He's here. He's on your doorstep." Your first insane impulse is to laugh. He looks absolutely nothing like you imagined. You hadn't, in fact, imagined him at all. You let him in. He sits, perched nervously on the edge of your most expensive silk-covered chair, refusing a glass of wine. So, you say, pouring one for yourself. Provence was nice. It is quiet, madam, he says. The tax receipts are very orderly. What are you doing here, monsieur? He clears his throat. This is it. He's here to make a scene. He's here to claim his wife. Well, he says, I have been following your career with great interest. The opera, the duels, the convent. You have become quite the personality. Go on. Under the law, madam, he continues, and now he sounds like he's auditing you. Under the audacious maritali, everything a wife earns, all her property, all her holdings, they are, in fact, the legal property of her husband. This is the mainstream historical fact that has been hanging over your head unnoticed. For 10 years, the audacious maritali, or marital authority, was the legal bedrock of 17th century France. A married woman did not legally exist. She was une femme couverte, a covered woman. She could not sign a contract. She could not open a business. She could not sue or be sued. And she could not, under any circumstances, control her own money. Every livre you earned from the opera, legally, it all belonged to this nervous, balding accountant you married when you were 16. He has come to collect. This is the ultimate mundane checkmate. You look at him. He's not angry. He's not even greedy. He's just correct. He is a man of ledgers, and his ledger is telling him he is owed. You look at him, and you do the one thing he doesn't expect. You laugh. A full, deep, opera house laugh. He jumps, startled. Monsieur, you say, I have faced down the Pope's inquisitors. I have insulted the Elector of Bavaria. I have dueled 3 men at once. Do you really think you are the man who is going to bring me to heel? No, madam. He squeaks, holding up his hands. God, no, I would not dream of it. I do not want a wife, not one like. That is, I want a quiet life. I like my ledgers. And now you understand. This isn't a shakedown. It's a negotiation. What do you want, Sieur de Maupin? An arrangement, he says, visibly relaxing. You are you, I am me. The law says we are one. This is inefficient. Here is a quirky tidbit. A separation de beans, a legal separation of property, was almost impossible to get. But a private, notarized contract, where a husband voluntarily signs away his financial claims on his wife in exchange for a fee, that was just a business deal. Historians still argue whether this bizarre reunion was a genuine, documented legal proceeding, or just another convenient apocryphal story to explain how La Maupin, a femme couverte, managed to live with such obvious and flagrant financial independence. But the story persists, and it's the perfectly strange not to be true. You name a number, a large one, a one-time payment, a severance, you call it. His eyes light up. It's a fortune. It's more than he'd make in 20 years of collecting taxes. And in exchange, you say, you go back to Provence. You are my husband in name only. You never come here. You never write. You do not exist, and I do not exist for you. We are strangers who happen to be married. Madam, he says, standing up, a look of profound, beatific relief on his face. You have just described my fondest dream. He bows. He signs the papers your notary draws up the next day. You pay him. He gets a golden parachute for a job he never had to do. And you get your freedom. You have just, in the most 17th century way possible, bought your own independence. You have weaponized the mariage de convenance that was meant to trap you. He leaves. You watch him walk down the street, a jaunty new spring in his step. He is a happy man. You are a happy woman. It is, perhaps, the single most successful marriage in all of France. Your husband, the most agreeable, efficient husband in all of France, has gone his purse heavy with your gold and his heart light with the joy of a man who has successfully and profitably dodged the most dangerous bullet of his life. You are, for the first time, truly, legally, and financially your own woman. You have bought your own autorite. You are La Maupin, and you are beholden to no one. You return to the opera, not as the king's project or the comte's protege, but as the conquering hero. You are no longer just a scandalous novelty. You are the standard. You are the institution. The years that follow are your golden age. You are the undisputed, and frankly terrifying, Queen of the Académie Royale. The directors and composers who once saw you as a casting problem now see you as the ultimate weapon. They are writing roles for you, parts that no other woman in Europe could sing or would dare to. This is the mainstream historical fact of your greatest triumphs. You become the muse for the next generation, specifically for a composer named André Campra. Campra is a genius, and he is trying to do the impossible, to fuse the noble, rigid, declamatory style of the old master, Lully, with the fiery, passionate, virtuoso Italian style that the king so despised. He is, in short, trying to put emotion and danger back into French opera, and you are his secret ingredient. In 1702, he writes his masterpiece, Tancred, and you, La Maupin, originate the most famous and travesti role of the 18th century, the title role. You are not a side part. You are not the warrior maiden. You are Tancred, the Saracen hero. But you are not just any hero. You are a tormented, passionate, tragic hero. And in the opera's most shocking and famous scene, you are mortally wounded. You are on stage. You are in full Saracen armor. You have been stabbed. You are dying, center stage, for a full 10 minutes. And you sing. You sing one of the most heartbreaking, emotionally raw arias ever written, all while bleeding out in a way that is so realistic the ladies in the boxes are fainting. No one has ever seen this. Lully's heroes were gods who flew away. Your hero is a human who dies. You are not just singing, you are acting. You are giving them a performance so visceral, so real, that the line between you and the character is erased. You are La Maupin. You are Tancred. You are the greatest artist in France. This is your life. Night after night, you die. Night after night, the parter weeps and then explodes. You have done it. You have conquered it all, but it is a performance. It's a job. Here's a quirky tidbit about your glamorous life. It's an unbelievable physical grind. You are singing for 3 hours in a corset of whalebone and wood or, worse, a metal breastplate. Over the sound of a 60-piece orchestra, there is no microphone, there is no amplification. To be heard in the back of the parter, you are singing at a full-bodied, athletic, heroic shout. The air you are breathing is a toxic fog of candle smoke, burning sulfur for the stage effects, and the powdered lead and chalk dust from 50 wigs. You end every performance drenched in sweat, your throat raw, your lungs burning. It's not art, it's a full-contact sport. And you are in your early 30s. In 17th century terms, you are solidly middle-aged. You've been La Maupin for over a decade. The duels are less frequent. The scandals are repetitive. You've kissed all the duchesses. You've beaten all the tenors. You've thrown all the money out the window. The applause, that nightly roar that you lived for, it's just noise. It's the sound of the machine. You are, once again, that most dangerous of things. You are bored. But this time, it's different. It's not the restless, fiery boredom of your youth. It's a deep, bone-weary exhaustion. The costume of La Maupin is heavy. And then you meet her. She's not a duchess at a ball. She's not a soprano rival. She is Madame la Marquise de Florentine. She is one of the most beautiful, most intelligent, and most powerful women in Paris. And like you, she is famously difficult, unconventional, and libertine. The affair is, by all accounts, immediate. But it's not the flash fire of the girl in Marcellus. This is not a conquest. This is a meeting of equals. You, the duelist from the stables, and she, the aristocrat from the salons. You find, to your absolute, terrifying shock, that you are in love, not in lust, not in obsession, but love. It's not a drama, it's a conversation, it's quiet. And for the first time in your life, you find yourself preferring the quiet of her salon to the roar of the parter. Historians still argue whether your decision was a genuine, passionate retirement, a spiritual crisis, or the single greatest act of public relations in your entire career. Was it l'amour fou, the mad love that made the world seem small? Was it, as some whispered, a sudden, terrifying return of your Catholic faith? A conversion that made you see your entire life as a spectacular sin? Or were you the ultimate duelist, the ultimate performer, just smart enough to know when to get off the stage? You were 32. You were at your absolute, undisputed peak. You were the legend. Were you just making sure you would only be remembered as the legend, and never as the aging diva whose voice had started to crack? We will never know. But the decision is made. It's 1705. You are performing in a new opera, La Venetienne. The house is sold out. It's just another night, another triumph. You sing your final aria. The applause is thunder. The parter is stomping, screaming La Maupin. La Maupin. Flowers are raining onto the stage, a carpet of roses and lilies. You stand there, center stage, in your costume. You look at them, the sea of faces, all looking at you. You are their god. Their creature, their entertainment. You hold the pose for a count of 5. You bow a deep, final, magnificent bow. And then you turn. You walk off the stage. You walk past the other singers, past the gasping stage hands, past the director. You go to your dressing room. You unstrap the heavy, gilded costume. You wipe the gray stain from your face. You put on your simple, dark, civilian clothes. You pick up your sword, a comforting, familiar weight. You walk out the stage door into the damp, cold Paris night. And you do not look back. You have just given your final performance. You are 32 years old. You have retired at the absolute height of your fame. You are, for the first time since you were a child, no one's employee. You are, finally, just Julie Daubigny. You walk out of the stage door. The applause is still thundering from inside, but it sounds muffled, distant, a noise from a world you've already left. The cold, damp Parisian air hits your face, and for the first time, it doesn't feel like an inconvenience, it feels like a cleansing. You've just walked away from the pinnacle of your profession, at the absolute zenith of your power. You are 32 years old. You are, for the first time since you were a teenager, unemployed. And you are, to your own profound surprise, perfectly, wonderfully calm. You don't go back to your old, chaotic apartment. You walk through the dark, sleeping streets to the Hôtel de Florentine. You go home. Your new life is the most shocking, most out-of-character thing you have ever done. You, La Maupin, the fire starter, the duelist, the human scandal, have settled down. You are domesticated. You wake up in a quiet, sunlit room, not to the frantic bell of a convent or the shriek of a stage manager, but to the smell of cafe, that new bitter fashionable sludge that all of high society is obsessed with. You read. You play the harpsichord, not for a roaring parter, but for an audience of one. You walk in a private, high-walled garden with the Marquise de Florentine. You talk for hours. You find, to your astonishment, that your mind, which you've only ever used for dueling tactics and memorizing librettos, is a sharp, interesting, and cynical thing. She, in turn, finds you fascinating. This isn't the fiery, possessive, terrified love you had with the girl in Marseilles. This isn't a conquest. It's a conversation. It's a partnership. You are, for the first time in your life, content. Naturally, Paris is having a complete meltdown. The parter is heartbroken. They are confused. The opera house is in chaos. They have lost their superstar, their box office gold. Rumors fly. Is she sick? Has she been arrested? Did she really just walk away? Yes, you did. This is the mainstream historical fact of your final act. In 1705, Julie Daubigny, La Maupin, retired from the Académie Royale de Musique to live in what contemporary records call a close and domestic relationship with the Marquise de Florentine. You have, it seems, finally won. You have your love, your freedom, your peace. You have a happily ever after. You get to enjoy it for almost 2 years, and then 17th century reality, which you have so skillfully, so brazenly dodged for your entire life, finally catches you. Madame de Florentine gets sick. It's not a dramatic, operatic sickness with a good aria. It's a fever, a wasting illness. It's slow, it's mundane, and it's unstoppable. You, who have controlled every scene of your life, can do nothing. The doctors arrive. They are the best in Paris. They are useless, pompous quacks in giant wigs. They prescribe bloodletting to release the hot humors. They prescribe brutal, weakening purges. You sit by her bed, holding her hand, and you watch them perform the quirky tidbit of their trade, cupping. They heat glass cups with a flame, and then place them on her back. The vacuum, as the air cools, sucks her skin up into dark, purple, perfectly round welts. They are drawing out the sickness. They explain, with grave authority. You, who know the body as a precise, lethal weapon, have to sit on your hands and watch these fools torture the woman you love, because it is medical science. She dies. In 1707. The love of your life, the only love of your life, it seems, is gone. And you are alone. You are 33 years old. You are a widow in all but name. And here the archive, which has been so full of your noise, your duels, your fires, goes silent. The blazing, documented, public life of La Maupin is over. The quiet, tragic, final months of Julie Daubigny begin, and no one, absolutely no one, agrees on what happened next. The stories conflict, they fracture. The first and most popular version is the penitent end. This is the one the church loved, the one they wanted to be true. You are broken by grief. You are, for the first time, terrified. You see her death as a divine punishment for your lifetime of spectacular sin. You The woman who burned a convent now go crawling back to one. You seek out a monastery, perhaps in the south of France. You are not a novice, not this time. You are a penitent. You give them your entire fortune. You spend your last days scrubbing stone floors in a rough wool habit, praying for the soul of the woman you loved and for your own. The second version is the quiet recluse. You are broken by grief, yes, but not by God. You are just done. The opera, the fame, the duels, it's all just a bad play. It's a costume you're tired of wearing. You simply retire. You take your money. You find a small, quiet house in the country. You live alone with your horses, your sword, and your memories. You fade, deliberately, from a legend back into a person. Historians still argue whether the penitent end story was a genuine account of a late-life religious conversion or if it was a piece of pious propaganda. Was it a moral of the story? Ending that 18th century biographers invented to domesticate your dangerous legend? They couldn't let the heretic, the cross-dresser, the bisexual duelist just win. They couldn't let you just retire, rich and happy. You had to repent. So, did they invent a holy ending for the ultimate sinner? And then, the final mystery, your death, in the same year, 1707, just months after Madame de Florentine. You just vanish. You are 33. Did you die of the same fever that took her? Did you die, as the romantics would say, of a broken heart? Or did you, in your grief and rage, pick one last, fatal, and completely unrecorded duel? We will never, ever know. You are gone. 33 years. It's a short, blinding, comet flare of a life. You burn so brightly that you vanish from the records, leaving only a smoking crater and 1,000 impossible stories. You are standing in the silence. The opera has ended. The diva has left the stage, and the lights have gone out. All that's left is the echo, the memory, and the stories. You're left with the smoking ruin of a convent, a trail of broken hearts and broken duelists, a career that blazed like a comet, and then nothing. Just a year, 1707, a date, an ending. So why? You have to ask yourself, are you here? Why are we sitting in the dark, talking about this 17th century woman who, by all accounts, was a footnote? The truth is, her story was almost lost, completely. You are standing in a vast, dusty archive, the Bibliothèque Nationale de France. You are looking for Julie Daubigny. There are no letters. There are no diaries. There is no personal trace of her. She, the woman who lived her life as a public spectacle, as a roaring fire, left behind no personal, private smoke. Historians still argue whether this staggering lack of personal documentation was an act of deliberate, malicious suppression, or just a mundane, tragic reality of history. Did her family, or perhaps the Marquise de Florentine's family, embarrassed by this unnatural relationship and her scandalous life, systematically burn her personal effects? Did the church, in its long memory, quietly erase the heretic who had made a fool of them? Or is the answer simpler and sadder? Is it just that she wasn't a duchess? She wasn't a general. She was a singer, a performer. In the 17th century, her class was, for all its glitter, considered disposable. Her personal letters were just paper, and paper was used to light fires, to wrap fish, to stuff shoes. She was simply, mundanly, lost. For 100 years, she was just that, a name in the margins. A few yellowing police reports from the Place des Victoires incident. A few outraged entries in the diaries of courtiers, like the Marquis de Dango, who noted her duels with a tone of aristocratic, horrified disgust. She was a line in the opera archives, a cast list for Tancred. She was a ghost. And then, the 19th century happened. The Romantics. They were obsessed with everything the 17th century was not. They loved wild emotion, defiant individuals, tragic deaths, and above all, the deviant and the exotic. They were digging through the archives, looking for heroes who broke the mold, and they found you. This is the mainstream historical fact that resurrects you, but as a different person. Your legend was saved and then completely rewritten by the Bibliothèque Bleue, the Blue Library. These weren't grand, leather-bound histories. They were cheap, popular pamphlets, printed on terrible paper with cheap blue covers. They were the 19th century equivalent of a sensational true crime podcast or a scandalous celebrity blog. They took the bare, crazy bones of your life, the opera, the convent fire, the duels, and they sensationalized them. They turned you into a folk hero, a swashbuckling guerrier, a passionate, tragic lover. You were no longer a real, complex, and probably quite difficult person. You were a story. And then, the final act of transformation. In 1835, a writer named Théophile Gautier decided to write a novel. He'd heard your legend. He was fascinated by the gender bending, the duels, the sheer style of it all. So he wrote Mademoiselle de Maupin. Here is the quirky tidbit that has defined your entire modern legacy. Gautier's book is not about you at all. It has almost nothing to do with your real life. The plot is about a bored young aristocrat, a man who disguises himself as a woman, Theodore, to discover the true nature of women. His Mademoiselle de Maupin, who is also a woman disguised as a man, is a beautiful, philosophical, and deeply melancholic creature. The novel isn't an adventure. It's a long, lush, philosophical exploration of art, beauty, and androgyny. It's famous for its preface, which became the rallying cry for the art for art's sake movement. Gautier stole your name, your legend, your androgyny, and he draped it over his own philosophical mannequin. And that is the version that survived. The real Julie Daubigny, the one who smelled like a stable, who had a violent temper, who was probably selfish, crude, and terrifying. She was buried. She was replaced by a beautiful, poetic, fictional ideal. So, you're left here, in the archive, trying to see the person behind the myth. You see the problem. The myth is better, it's cleaner, it's more inspiring. The myth is the bisexual, opera-singing, convent-burning icon. The reality was a person, a complicated, violent, gifted, and profoundly damaged person. A woman who was raised by her father to be a weapon, who was sold to a nobleman as a toy, who learned that her only path to survival was to be louder, more dangerous, and more spectacular than anyone else in the room. Was she a proto-feminist hero, fighting the patriarchy? Or was she just a survivor with a sword, a spectacular voice, and a colossal chip on her shoulder? She was both. She was neither. She was real. She was the woman who loved, who burned, who sang, and who, at 33, finally found a moment of peace, only to have it snatched away. She was the woman who, in the end, simply stopped. The archive is empty. The records are silent. All you have is the outline, the shadow, the echo of the roar she made. You are standing in the dark, but you can still see the sparks. The fire, it seems, was never really put out. And so, we've come to the end of our journey, back from the smoky, torchlit corridors of the 17th century. The story of Julie Daubigny, of the real La Maupin, is one of those that feels more like a dream than a history. A story that burns so brightly and so fast that it seems impossible it could have ever been real. But she was. She was a woman of fire and music, of swords and silence, who tore a hole in the brocade curtain of her era and sang her own, wild, defiant aria. And then, she was gone. You can let that world fade now. You can feel the sharp edges of the 17th century, the smell of the tallow candles and the cold, damp stone of the convent all begin to soften. The sounds of the opera, the roar of the parter, the frantic ringing of the alarm bells. All of it is just a distant echo, fading into the soft, quiet hum of your own room. The legend can go back to the archives. The real Julie can rest. And you can rest too. You can let the details of the duels and the names of the composers and the politics of the French court just dissolve. They can drift away, leaving only the feeling of a story well told, a journey completed. There is nothing else you need to think about tonight. Nothing you need to solve or remember. There is only this moment. This quiet. The lights are dimmed, the night is settled, and you are safe. You can let go of the day, let go of the story, and just drift.